Alam kong mahal natin ang bansa, pero hindi pwedeng maging ugat pa ng pagkakawatak-watak ang pagmamahal na ito.
Oo, mag-isip na tapos na. Ngunit, kahit hindi pa tapos nga ang pagbibilang, hindi makapag-antay ang aking pasasalamat sa inyong lahat.
Okay, and just like that, one of the most heated and noisiest elections in the Philippines has come to an end. In this One News special coverage, join us as we dissect what went right and what went wrong for the different personalities and camps in these elections. This is Bilang Pilipino 2022. Good evening, guys.
Good evening. Good evening.
Gusto nyo na matapos ang gabi. Good evening na kayo.
Oo, hapon pa lang.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hapon pa lang.
That's right. Sorry.
Nandito na tayo because we've been in this complex for the past
Yeah.
43 hours.
43
So a
hours.
lot of
That's
us
right.
has not had good sleep,
Yeah.
at least. And it's obvious because one of us is missing right now.
You know.
But he just arrived. Maybe he can join us right now, Mr. Ed Lingao.
Saan ako lang?
He has been
Enter
pulling.
stage right.
He has been pulling long shifts in the two channels for
Two
One News
channels.
and for TV5.
And he'll stay until midnight.
Yes,
Of
but
course.
first of all,
Can
let's
I go
introduce his team. For those who are not familiar with us, no, let's introduce this team because it's, I think, the second time we've come together on cam for a special coverage. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the so-called the Storycon group, the Story Conference group. With me this afternoon are the editors, the editorial team of One News and One PH. Let me start with the person who came in late. The person who came in last, we will introduce him first, Mr. Ed Lingao. He is our political editor. Next to me is Regina Lay, formerly of Bloomberg TV Philippines. Now she joins us again in One News as our business editor. And right next to him is our news editor, Jove Francisco. So on top of his many duties on cam in different shows, he is also part of our editorial team. And at the end of the table is our defense and security editor, Mr. Manny Mogato, a long-time defense and security reporter for local newspapers, Manny, and also for
Yes.
foreign news agencies
Yeah.
like Reuters.
And a Pulitzer Prize winner.
And a Pulitzer Prize winner.
And,
the only one,
yeah.
the only Filipino.
No, the only living Filipino. And
Living
Don't
Filipino.
emphasize that, okay?
Emphasize that. Living Filipino.
and also Budut's King.
The Buddhist king. Yes, but I think he may have to change his, his
Oh.
moves in this election.
There are no Buddhas today.
Oo.
Meron paro-paro G.
It's a paro-paro G.
Yeah.
That's the dance of this election season. It's a paro-paro G.
Anyway.
Yung sayaw na it's on TikTok. TikTok is a platform of this campaign, of this election season. It seems to be.
And that made
Nag-hesitate siya.
one
May blank
senatorial
look on his
candidate
face.
number one.
TikTok.
Yes, so we're still trying to dissect if that paro-paro G on TikTok of this one senatorial candidate is what propelled him to
That
the
or
number
the
one
song.
position.
That or the song.
Exactly.
Wonderful
I suppose
tonight.
you're talking
Wonderful
about Pilipinas.
tonight.
Yes, wonderful tonight.
Parang gusto mag-demo ni Manny
Awag na.
Okay. But first of all, mga bok, let's start off with how we assess the just concluded elections. Maybe first of all, we can start, Bok, with a security assessment
Well-
of the just concluded elections.
Well, this is one of the most peaceful and orderly elections. We only had some pockets of violence, particularly in Muslim Mindanao,
Yeah.
where 3 people died in Buluan. There's also a teacher who died in Himamaylan, Negros. But otherwise, it's generally peaceful.
Yes. It's funny how in the Philippines, a few dead is considered
Generally
Peaceful. Because in the past, we had so many election violence.
Yes.
No? Especially during,
In 2009.
2009.
Even during the campaign period
Yes,
pa lang, no?
yes.
Campaign period pa lang.
Wala pang eleksyon. Nagpapatay na yung mga
Yes,
kandidato.
and let's remember, Bok, one of the most gruesome
Maguindanao Massacre,
the Maguindanao massacre. Happened during the
2009.
Yeah.
campaign season.
Well, not
Filing,
yet.
the filing.
Filing.
Yes.
Yeah.
The filing of the COC.
And then you were
Motivate people.
telling a story earlier, Manny, about nag-aagawan ng
Yes,
ballot boxes.
in the past, before we had these automated elections, the election violence happened during the counting of ballots and the canvassing of election. Nag-aagawan ng balota yan.
Ballot box, ha?
Ballot boxes.
Oh, for those too
Bunitan.
young to remember, no?
Bunitan,
These are
sunugan.
these are heavy metal boxes
Yeah.
with, I don't know, 12 or how many, I forgot how many, exactly how
Padlock.
many padlocks.
For each compartment,
For
and
each
you're talking about several
compartment,
compartments
okay, they're
inside the
heavy.
main compartment.
At saka ano, di ba, there's a term for that, money. Ballot box snatching.
Ballot
Yeah.
box.
Yan yung mga
Literally.
incident natin.
Parang,
And-
those
and-
were the days.
Yes,
Those
and
were-
in
those were the
1986, the teachers and the supporters, the poll watchers are embracing the ballots,
Yeah.
ballot boxes, just to protect them.
Kaya
Iba,
nauso yung
tinatali
mga,
pa yung kamay nila.
nauso yung mga
ballot
madring
box.
nakaupo sa ballot box.
So this is why we say it's generally peaceful. It's not that we're downplaying the deaths.
Yes,
Because
of course.
before, in previous years, maraming ganyang incidents.
Marami, yeah.
And now, look how fast
It's
the
fast,
transmission
the transmission
came.
of election results.
Yeah.
Kasi inabot ni Manny, yung inabot ng alauna ng madaling araw, alas 2 ng madaling araw, nagtatara sa blackboard o sa Manila paper
Yeah.
Yes.
sa bawat presinto.
Hindi lang yung Bok, di ba? Matanda mo. Pag nag-brown out pa,
Kandila.
the counting, the
Kandila.
teachers would keep counting,
Keep counting. On the
by
blackboard.
candlelight.
Yeah.
By candlelight,
Yeah.
with candles. So,
And that's for each and every precinct. So, kung ikaw nakatalaga doon sa isang eskwelahan, iikutin mo lang ang precinct na nakakandila, naka-plastic na
yes,
kayo.
and we were counting on studio votes that were in the numbers, what, hundreds?
Hundreds of
Only
thousands.
After
Before,
several
yeah.
hours,
Before,
it was still in the hundreds. So, I have to say I don't miss manual voting.
Back then, weeks pa before you get the
Yes,
full
yeah.
results. Right?
And also kasi the wait for the physical certificate of canvas
Yeah.
To be
come in.
transmitted from the precinct to the municipal.
It wasn't transmitted before. It was physically brought.
Physically brought, yeah.
So,
So you can imagine at
before the
many
age of the
stages it was vulnerable. The system was vulnerable in many stages.
Yeah.
That's
so
true.
we have a few violent incidents,
They
and
stand
we have
around.
no more goons, no more thugs, but
We have
vote buying.
yes. And no more goons. Not so much, no. What do we have?
Trolls.
Troll.
Trolls.
Trolls
Things
and
have gone online. That's
misinformation
progress.
networks.
That's
Correct.
progress.
Correct.
It's interesting how this election is a combination of old tricks and new tricks.
Different platform. Yeah.
Okay, Regina, here our business editor should give us what's the fallout or the upside from these elections. I understand the market went down.
Yeah,
slightly.
so the immediate reaction was for the market to drop, right, across the board, all the indices. I will qualify that by saying that there was a global sell-off overnight. So it's not just us, right? There was comments from the Federal Reserve in the U.S. saying that they might hike interest rates again, and that spooked investors, so that helped. That didn't help. That did not help sentiment. Having said that, the general trend immediately after elections is for the markets to go up because it's hope, it's optimism,
Okay.
right? So they're generally buoyed by the promise of a new government, right? Which didn't happen this time, or maybe it remains to be seen in the coming days.
We still can't separate whether this is caused by the elections or by the global.
I think it's both. It's a combination of both, right?
And
So
there
bearish
is-
sentiment.
There is
overseas.
certain uncertainty in the air
Yes, exactly.
because of the war in Ukraine,
Yes.
the pandemic.
Yeah.
Or basically change.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah. So as you guys know, businesses don't like uncertainty, right?
They don't like
the number
surprises.
one. They don't like surprises. As far as the president-elect, presumptive president rather, is concerned, there's still a lot we don't know about.
Okay.
And that's why the business community is maybe
That's the
a little
sentiment.
off. Because when you look at the people that sold Philippine stocks, a lot of them are foreigners.
Okay.
It's mostly the foreigners selling. So again, that plays to the story of.
And
they're
the
a bit
headlines we're
jittery.
seeing in foreign publications, or foreign newspapers, are not exactly very
No.
flattering
They're
about
not-
what just happened.
Yeah,
the
they're not
results of this
flattering at
election.
all. All of them, every single one of them, tie it back to the Marcos Sr.'s time. Because so little
That's
is
the
known
angle, yeah.
about Bongbong Marcos that, again, they cannot separate the father from the son. So talagang each time that there's coverage, it's dictator's son, dictator's namesake, and so on and so forth. And
Okay.
again, businesses don't like that.
Okay, at the same time, Regina, we were talking about this a while ago, Bob, no? The market generally is down, but some stocks went up. And that's interesting to note, huh?
So I was gonna show a chart, but then we didn't have time to pull it together. But yes, the stocks that are somehow related to the presumptive president, for example, Araneta Properties, did go up slightly. There's also PhilWeb, which, as we know,
PhilWeb, yeah.
was sold to Reggie Araneta.
The brother.
PhilWeb is a gaming
brother-in-law.
company.
It's a
It
gaming
was
company. It used
first
to be-
shut down by
it used to
by
be
President
Duterte,
Yeah.
correct. It used to be Roberto Ongpin's
Yes,
cash
Bobby
cow.
Ongpin, yeah.
Yes, Bobby Ongpin. And so, although there was a spike, when you look at the
Yeah.
chart, there was a spike early in the morning for these stocks, tapos it came down a little bit.
Okay.
So by the end of
Still
the day,
up. Still up. Still up.
marginally. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
So
it's very
ayun na.
selective. Selective
yeah, very
reaction.
selective. So now people are, you could almost sense that people are beginning to position. okay. Now we're at that point where they're like, what's next? Okay, how do we prepare for this new administration?
Okay. What is the business community watching out or looking out for?
Number one, who the economic team will be.
Okay.
That's the most important thing. With President Duterte, he was also a dark horse. They didn't know him, but he put the right people in place.
Yeah. Sana Dominguez.
Okay,
With
they're
Finance
very
Secretary.
familiar with Sonny. He has
Correct.
had 2 cabinet positions in the past.
Yeah, he was
With-
also a
Yes.
cabinet member
He was a
during
known
Quirino time.
entity, basically, right? With the presumptive president, we don't know who he's going to put in place. There's talks, there's rumors,
Okay.
but none of that has been confirmed. So yun yung number one thing. If he puts the right people in place, I think there's going to be a
More confident.
huge confidence,
Yeah.
a rush of confidence. Okay, that maybe this is not going to be so bad.
Okay. let's
It's
hope.
like Erap Estada's time. A lot of people panicked when Erap was elected, but then he started
Right.
putting in,
Good
good people
people.
in cabinet.
Right.
In fact, he had one of the
Yeah,
best cabinets around.
he had the best economic advisors at that time.
I remember there was Ben Diokno as well.
Yeah, Ben Diokno.
Oh, that's right. See, Governor
The BSP.
Benjokno, yeah.
Governor. No.
Okay, before we go on Gap, because we're being cute to go on Gap, before we go on Gap, quickly, Bob. Our political editor, from the political side, quickly.
You know what surprises me is that some people were surprised.
Okay.
with the numbers. I mean, we've been seeing the numbers since December.
Yeah. We
and-
expected it.
Yeah, and we were looking at metrics that we've always looked at in the past. And we've had additional metrics. For example, Okta came in, but then you've also had politicians from before.
Yeah. They all tell us the same numbers and trends.
Basically the same numbers and the same trend.
And yet people are surprised.
And at the same time, you get the same feeling on the ground. I mean, like it or not, I mean, we don't have to agree with the numbers, or we don't have to agree personally with the survey numbers, or whatever. But in the end, last night we were talking with Professor Contreras. He was saying. My Pambato did not win, but at least the science won.
Didn't his Pambato
That's
win?
what he said.
Okay.
That's what he said on camp.
This is Professor Contreras.
Yeah,
Of course, yes.
he said my Pambato did not win, but at least science won.
Okay.
Because at the same time that politics is one thing. Narratives change, but in the end you want to establish and reinforce institutions that you want to stay there throughout the successful administrations.
Okay.
Tama. Alam ko may gap tayo. Before tayo mag-gap, ito yung teaser natin for the
Yes.
next segment. At least, as a fan, a reluctant fan actually of politics.
Okay.
I think.
You're a fan of politics?
I was wondering where you were going to go with that fan.
A reluctant fan, ang tingin ko, we should, medyo gusto kong tignan yung next 100 days or yung ating
Everybody's
planning for the next 100 days.
in bated breath.
And of course, while we're preparing for that, yung study dito sa nakalipas na 90 days, kung paano nabago na naman yung campaigning
Yes,
at kung ito ba yung magagamit in the future. So,
Right.
reluctant fan, pero we have to study and we have to look forward sa 100 days.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, don't go anywhere. Bilang Pilipino 2022 here on One News. We'll come back right after this break.
Bilang Pilipino. Bilang Pilipino.
And you're still watching One News's Bilang Pilipino 2022 Election Special.
Pasadahan po natin ang latest na partial and unofficial na count. At siyempre, gagabayan tayo ni Ed pagdating dyan, Manny.
Oo nga, Ed.
May gabay pa kayo nalaman.
Show us the numbers.
Okay, lakad na Ed.
See?
May paggabay pang nalaman.
Gagabayan mo kami, Ed Lingao.
Okay. Well, of course, clearly Marcos is still number one, or is finally number one. I don't think there's any way to go around it. With 30.958 million, followed by Lenny Robredo with 14.7, Manny Pacquiao surprisingly number 3 at 3.61, and Isko Domagoso with 1.81. You do remember yung Pulse Asia? I'm sorry. Refresh. Oh, okay. Well, anyway, you do remember the last Pulse Asia survey, we saw how Manny Pacquiao was able to bag number 3, replacing Isko Moreno after that, the Easter Sunday press conference. Okay, let's
Ed,
take, what, yes.
How many % of the precincts have
The precincts.
transmitted
Oh, Bok, before you move. Okay, 97.8%. I
That's
just
it.
wanted you to point out to our viewers and to us here the previous heat map.
Okay,
There's a curious detail there that we need to see.
which heat map? The
The
2016
one
versus
where,
2022?
where
or,
just no, where you just came from.
okay.
There. Go
Yeah.
to the lower portion. There's
Sige, I'll
something
do a
blue there.
Oh, yes, yes.
Explain
Okay.
to us.
Well, this is called, the heat map is color coded depending on which candidate won which province. So Bongbong Marcos is colored red, Lenny Robredo is colored pink. So you basically see who won where. Now you do have two unusual colors here in Lanao del Sur and in Sarangani province. So if you drill down, these are the outliers. Faisal Mangondato won in Lanao del Sur with 19.44% of the votes. Siya yung number 1 sa Lanao del Sur. Of course, Faisal is from Marawi City. So meron siya parang niche crowd.
So
or
that's
meron
the
siyang-
Baluarte.
Oh,
Yes,
Baluarte.
that's the
You might-
Baluarte.
might put it that way. So, among all the 10 candidates, of course, maliban kay BBM tsaka kay Lenny Robredo, si Faisal lamang ang nakapanalo sa isang probinsya. Maliban
there's
lang.
another one.
Yeah, maliban
Yes.
lang kay Manny Pacquiao. That's the other one. Manny Pacquiao bagged Sarangani province with 44% of the vote in
Bailiwick.
yeah,
Yes.
Bailiwick. Of course,
Hometown.
Manny
Hometown,
is from
hometown.
Sarangani.
What's
there.
other book is like let's see. Cavite is supposed to be the hometown of one other
Cavite,
candidate.
if you go down south here, south of Metro Manila, here you see Bongbong Marcos bagging Cavite with 48.68% of the votes. Ping Lacson comes in with not even 100,000.
Yes.
Only with 91,587.
And Ping Lacson is supposed to be from Cavite.
Yeah,
In
he is from
2004, I think he lost the elections when he ran for president in 2004, but at the same time, he took Cavite. At least Cavite went
And
Ping Lacson,
Yeah.
not in this
He
election.
campaigned there a number of times.
They
That's
all,
importante, pabalik-balik
they all
siya,
love
that's right.
campaigning in Cavite
That's right.
because Cavite, of course, is the
a
second
vote-rich.
most populous province in terms
So,
of
Ed,
votes.
John Vic Remulla delivered for Bongbong Marcos.
Yes, apparently
Is
he
it
did.
a 1 million spread? Because he promised 1 million.
It is. It's
Not really. 1.1 versus 497,000. So mga 600,000 thereabouts.
So may utang siya.
May utang pa siya. May utang pa siya mga 400,000. Okay. Another province of interest would be, of course, Tarlac.
Tarlac, because Lenny won in 2016.
Yes, she won. Actually, but that might be nice to look at. If you look at 2016 figures and the 2016 heat maps, this is 2016 vice presidential race. This is 2022. Again, color coded. In 2016, the orange colors are the provinces where Bongbong Marcos won, and then you have yellow for Lenny Robredo. Namumukod tangi ang yellow sa Tarlac, at least for this part of
And
Luzon.
that is because
except for
the president back then was Noynoy Aquino.
Noynoy Aquino.
Okay, so he
And
secured
of
the
course,
province for
Yeah.
the
The
administration
affiliations with the Liberal Party. So in 2016, si Lenny Robredo, there you go, got 220,000 votes versus Bongbong Marcos with
close.
195,000 votes. Yeah. Are you
But
looking
in
at the spread of
2022,
25,000 votes na ang kaibahan nila eh. Okay, so that's Tarlac for you in 2016. Come 2022, here we go. It's now Bongbong Marcos with 425,000 versus Lenny Robredo with 289,000. So the
bad.
difference is 130,000 votes. Not much, but that sends a message as well.
Yeah.
So Yeah, just still some quick looks. Okay, some points of interest here. This guy is 2016, so you see how this portion is orange that went for BBM. This portion of Luzon, that's from Quezon down to the Bicol region, and then this is Samar, this is Mindoro, this is the Panay Islands, this is Negros, Cebu, and so on down the line. They all went with Lenny, except for Leyte,
A bailiwick of the
Of
Romualdez.
course.
which of course is where Imelda Marcos comes from. And then if you go down south to Mindanao, almost all of Mindanao, except for some portions, in this case, this is Zamboanga, this is Zamboanga del Sur, and this is, if I remember right, Lanao del Norte went to Bongbong Marcos with Cotabato and Sultan Kudarat, South Cotabato, and Sarangani province. Everything else almost went to Lenny Robredo. 2016, quickly lang, 2022. Bongbong Marcos captures almost all of Luzon except for Quezon and the Bicol region. Lenny did not even get the entirety of Panay Island. She still got Masbate and Negros
Half of
Occidental.
Negros Island.
And portions of Samar, this is northern and eastern Samar, so Ben Ebardone delivered to Lenny Robredo.
And
He delivered.
Lenny lost Mimoropa.
Oh yeah, here. That's Mindoro and Palawan. They went to Bongbong Marcos compared to 2016 when it went to Lenny Robredo. Everything else in Mindanao except for Lanao del Sur and Sarangani went to Bongbong Marcos in 2022. So, ayan.
So that means the endorsement of the MILF did not matter.
Yeah,
Medyo late, no?
yeah, and it's
I think
interesting.
the bar mayors, officials, all endorsed
Marcos.
Marcos, BBM.
Yeah, but you have to remember the MLF, the Bangsamoro Unified Justice Party of the MILF. Of course, it's basically a rebel group. So
It's
they're
a
not
small
exactly in good terms with the local
The warlords.
I don't want to put it that way. With the local officials in the area. Minsan may kiskisan
Well,
yun eh.
it's also interesting to note that Pantaleon Alvarez
Oh yeah,
who
Spanty.
shifted support to
Yeah,
Lenny.
here in Davao del Norte, Davao del Norte, and I think in Davao Oriental. But at least Davao del Norte. So if you look at the numbers in Davao del Norte, tama ba? Davao del Norte siya, di ba?
Oh, that was not it.
There you go.
He
It's
did
Bongbong
deliver.
Marcos with 468,000 versus Lenny Robredo with 39,000.
Ang layo.
So-
Not even a tenth.
He did deliver.
He did. Well, he delivered a tenth.
Okay. And who
More or
else,
less.
Bok? Who else did not deliver or delivered? I understand that Batangas early on went for
For the blue
Rectos,
camp.
right?
For the blue camp.
Went for Isko Moreno.
Okay, here we have Batangas. Down here where you have Laia.
Of course.
Batangas went to Bongbong Marcos. Hindi ganun kalayo. 718,000
Yes,
versus
yes.
654,000.
Pero yung pinangako for
For
Isko
Isko.
Moreno, medyo
Ay, I'm
hindi
sorry.
yun nato.
Isko.
The Rectos
Isko nga pala, no?
promised.
Number
Isko
three.
Moreno. Asan si Isko? Dito, number 3.
Number three.
88,000. A little bit more than a tenth.
And Lenny Robredo
Of
caught
ano?
up, Almost caught up.
Yeah, yeah.
At 600,000.
So, yun. Si Isko is not even a tenth of Bongbong Marcos, even after Recto and Vilma
Jovi, ano yan?
at TV.
ATV.
Eh, nakita niyo naman, totoo ba yung balot? Hindi natin masasabi, ano? Pero anyway,
Ed,
Batangas politics.
Go to Eastern Samar because Ben Ibardoni, our friend.
Okay, Eastern Samar is over here. Ben
delivered for
Ebardone,
Lenny.
Governor. In Eastern Samar, you have Lenny Robredo with almost 20,000 over Bongbong Marcos.
So Ben Ibardoni delivered. Huh?
Yes. Unfortunately,
We will
it's
talk to him soon.
clearly not enough. Do you still have time for the party list?
Yes,
Kasi-
we have
Yes,
time for
yeah.
party
Book,
list.
party list daw. Sorry. So, ano muna tayo? Start muna tayo. Okay. Hindi pa siya final kasi hindi pa naman final 100%. They only start really calculating after all the votes for the party list system is in, and then they look at who got 2% of the total votes cast for the party list system,
But
and that's when they start
As
computing.
expected,
Okay.
AXIS.
So, the color coding, I suppose, is only to give us an idea kung sino yung malamang pasok. Pero wala pang
Sure,
penalty yan.
but not
Sure.
yet the final lineup.
And yung
Yeah.
pula yung alanganin. And so this is ranked down the line. Okay, so yun lang. Just to qualify, this is not final, but this gives you an indication of who probably gets in and who probably stays out. AXIS of Rafi Tulfo.
Oh,
is in.
as expected.
Yeah. One rider party list, I looked it up. It's, a road and motorcycle safety
It's a new party
group.
list.
Yeah.
Hindi ba yung mga
Based in,
Grab?
based in Bicol.
Okay.
Ay,
So, it got number 2. Tingog na not so familiar. Sagip, sounds familiar, di ba? Kayo ng group ng Sagip. I've been hearing this, I should look it up. Ako, Bicol, yes, that's an old party list. You, of course, also have Sibak, which is an old party list. You have Agimat of the Revillas.
Okay, mata.
Yeah, remember? Brian Revillata, di ba? Ang anak ni Duterte Youth, of course, is in Kabataan, which is part of the Makabayan Bloc. I think this is only one. Yeah, that's the only.
There's no more Gabriela in the
Yeah,
top 20.
it's down there. Anyway,
Okay.
Kabataan, ako Bisaya, LPG this is medyo old na.
Yes.
LPG sellers. Probinsyano ako. Here you go. Gabriela at number 21. Going
How
further
about
down.
the Comelec Commissioner's, former Comelec Commissioner
Yeah.
Guanzon's,
Ay, PWD.
I saw it earlier. Where did it go? What's the name of that?
PWD.
I saw it earlier this morning. I can't find. Here, ito ba yun?
that's
PWD.
it. That's it.
They will
Yeah.
likely get a seat. No?
Yes.
Bok?
Baka isa.
At least one.
Possibly.
Yeah, at least one.
Pero tingnan nyo, 21 si Gabriela and ACT party list here is 35 ang
That's
baba.
another Makabayan
And
Bloc
I know, I
party
see you,
list.
Bok, but I'll do this quickly na lang. Going down, anak kalusugan of Mike Defensor, at least previously Mike Defensor is down there. Kabayan of formerly si Harry Roque is here. One Pacman,
very
number
low.
49.
It's very low.
This is the
Very
party
low.
of Mikey
Mikey Romero.
Romero, who used to head the party list block. One of the, in 2019,
Swing votes of,
yeah, saying
Congress.
a major power block in Congress before is now in number 49. Meron pa. Akbayan of Ronald Llamas is here. TUCP lost a seat or is looking like it's losing a seat. Bayan Muna is number 64. So you have at least 3
That's quite low.
3 party list groups with the Macbayan block.
How about my
Down
favorite,
there.
Mocha Uson?
It's further down. Jem, lapit na tayo. I'll try to do this quicker. Frontliners ang bida, I think, is the one of Celine Pilago.
Celine, oh yeah.
Di ba?
81.
Okay, I'm now looking for one na lang.
Si Mocha Uson.
Yeah, that's the one eh. I'm looking for it. It's further down eh.
Mothers for Change.
Yeah, it's plainly Mocha here. Ram is down here. Also Magdalo, 127 is Mocha. So she again fails to bag a seat.
Okay.
So yun. Basically, yun ang nangyari. Daming, may mga bago na unusual. One rider, for example, road safety and motorcycle riding, number 2. Tapos ang daming mga old-timers, bagsak.
Okay.
Baka si Kim Seng ko kasama dyan.
Yung pala siya yung siya pala yung
Congressman na.
nominee.
Yung mobile journalist natin na who probably might not.
I think posible pang maging swing vote pa rin sila sa lower house pagbukas ng
Sino?
bagong
Si-
kongreso. Hindi, yung kabuuan nitong
Party
yung
list.
membership ng party list.
That's
Pero
if
baka
they,
iba na
ano
ang leaders.
That's if they
For sure.
come
For sure.
together as one block eh.
And
Hindi
if
kasi
they-
you're
they-
looking at
And if they have a strong leader,
Yeah.
it will require a strong leader.
Oh,
Ah,
yeah. Mamaya, pag-usapan natin yan. Sa guest natin na naririnig nyo na po, mga kapatid, ha? Anyway, Partido Lakas ng Masa standard bearer Cal Leody de Guzman has admitted defeat in the presidential polls. He thanked those who maintained their support despite his meager numbers. Cal Leody also assured that even if he didn't become president, he and his running mate Walden Bello will continue the fight to end contractualization and to raise minimum wages to 750 pesos. Ako yun ay forever aim.
Yes, oo.
Especially now that the country is seeing a probable Marcos presidency.
Pero tinalo pa siya ni Faisal.
Yeah.
May baluarte si Faisal.
Baluarte. Okay, running mate, Reg.
Meanwhile, Cal Leody de Guzman's running mate Walden Bello has also accepted defeat, but with a few choice words against the presumptive winner of the presidential race, Bongbong Marcos.
What's new with that?
Yeah.
Fighting words pa rin. In a statement, Bello admitted he and Calyodi had two objectives in running: to win and to popularize their socialistic ideals. While they were not able to win the elections, Bello believes they succeeded in their second agenda. He predicted instability for the coming 6 years if his so-called Marcos-Duterte dynastic duo would be in power. That is, if their term will actually surpass 1 year due to possible infighting. He said those who oppose the coming regime can count on the former congressman to be part of it and encourages supporters to not mourn but organize.
Talagang fighting words.
To not mourn eh. Manny, ikaw yan.
Kora,
Manny nakalagay eh.
I cannot read.
Okay. Hindi mo na sinabi, okay. Well, Senate President Tito Soto has conceded to Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte in the vice presidential race. Soto says the people have made their choice and that he has accepted their will. The running mate of Senator Ping Lacson also noted that they were able to present an alternative system of governance. Soto has ranked third in the vice presidential race since the first wave of partial and unofficial results.
Sayang yung Itbulaga. Hindi ginamit.
Sa heat map, no? Mula Apare hanggang Hulo usually yung tagline ng Itbulaga, pero it didn't. Walang dots. Okay.
Meanwhile, Senator Ping Lacson said in a social media post that he is going home. On Instagram, Lacson posted a photo of a man fishing amid idyllic surroundings. In that caption, he said that after being away for so long, looking after the needs of other people, it's time for him to serve his family for a change. Further, he says that enjoying peace and quiet in these challenging times will probably be his life's greatest reward. Lacson posted this as results unveiled that he is placing only 5th in the presidential polls.
You know what? Pwedeng maging social media personality si Ping Lacson.
He has taken a lot to
Yeah.
Instagram during this campaign, right?
Tinan mo yung litratong pinost.
And also at Twitter.
Yeah.
Twitter, yeah. And showing off his Nikes. Right? Unboxing his Nikes. Okay, Manila Mayor Isko Moreno has also conceded defeat in the presidential race. In his concession speech, Moreno congratulated frontrunner Bongbong Marcos Jr. and his family. Moreno added that yesterday's elections were proof that democracy is alive. The Manila mayor has ranked 4th in the presidential race since the start of the unofficial count. Okay, so
Ano ba talaga? Gap o banter?
Hindi. What can you say about the, yung ingay ni Yorme na hindi nag-translate do sa strong tree na gusto nung
I think
ng
the
iba.
Easter Sunday press conference did him.
I think he had a lot of missteps na
Yeah.
pinakamalaki. The pinnacle of it was the Easter Sunday
Yes.
press conference.
it just climaxed with that,
Yeah,
right?
correct.
And
Yes.
you want a physical example of that? Nung tumalon siya, natumba.
But
That-
even
that
in your,
impulsive jump.
Yeah.
That impulsive jump, which some say also is a kind of metaphor to his decision to
what
join this
he's
race.
like. Right, right. Because I don't know if you guys remember, but at the very, very start of this, some people were saying that it was not his time yet, that he should wait another 6 years, right? Continue building his name.
yeah, he could have had a second run
Correct.
for
Yeah, but
For mayor.
diba?
Oh,
He's still young.
or higher
He's still
position,
young.
correct?
He's
Yeah,
still young.
He could have been an Arab.
he could have been an Arab. Yeah.
He could have done a lot more things for Manila.
That's
before,
right.
no?
That's right. And then when
Not
he
just 3
did
years.
throw his name into the hat, initially he had a lot of momentum.
Yes.
But
yes.
then it kind of started fizzling out.
He started
Yeah,
out
he
with
had
two
two
digits.
digits, yeah.
Double
Yeah.
digit
Oh, yeah.
numbers.
And he was running neck to neck with Bongbong.
And he
After
ended up
Sara.
with
Not even 2 million votes.
Not even. Pero sa Manila, may continuity because kapartido naman niya or kasama
Si
niya.
Hanilet.
Yung
Si
emerged na
Hani.
winner.
Hani.
Okay,
Nakunya.
The first.
female mayor of Manila.
You know what's interesting there is that if you look at the names of the people who ran for Manila Mayor, ang magkalaban is Hanilet Abansenya, the daughter of Danny Lacuna. And
Hani
Lopez.
Hani Lacuna.
Hanilet.
Hanilet
Iba
is
pala yung Hanilet, no?
President
Yeah,
Duterte's
Hanilet.
partner.
And kalaban niya, I think was
Bagatsing.
the son.
Alex
the son
Lopez.
of Mel Matay. Mel Lopez.
Mel Lopez, oh.
No, she beat 3 children of
And
former
Bagatsing.
mayors.
Bagatsing.
Yes. Pero kasi
Science of
nung
former
panahon ni Cory, it was Mel Lopez as mayor and Danny Lacuna as vice.
Yun na nga.
Naglaban yung mga anak.
Parang Danny Lacuna never rose to the parang mayoralty
Yes.
post.
Now his
ever
daughter.
since- Tapos ngayon yung daughter niya yung nakapunta doon. Si
poetic
Dr.
again.
Honey, Tapos ang natalo nga niya ay mga anak ng mismong naging mayor.
Her father was was known as the forever vice mayor.
Forever
Danny
vice.
Lacuna.
Pero can I just say na I think hindi lang to Isko partnership or dahil kay Isko kaya nanalo si Honey. Dahil ako'y taga Manila po I think it's the vaccination drive
They did well with that.
sa Manila.
And I think safe to say that most incumbents
Have the
managed to,
advantage, yeah.
had the advantage from this pandemic.
Yeah.
And they all, most of them stayed, I think, except for one or a few municipalities or cities in Metro Manila. Most actually had a strong lead.
Si
in the
Vico, ang laki
elections.
ng lead sa
Yeah.
Pasig. Natalo
Most
niya
of
yung patulis yung buhok.
Na
Si
Caruncho.
Oy, gusto nun ng
Iyo
recount.
Taruncho.
Well, he's still contesting the result, by the way.
Sila lang mahal
Be
mo.
clear.
Malaki margin.
Kino-contest pa rin niya.
Giving up.
Yeah.
Anyway, so pinangako namin yung guest. So yung na po ang susunod naming segment after this break. Bilang Pilipino at 2022 here on One News, we'll be back after this break. 2 experts will join our discussion. Babalik po kami.
Bilang
Welcome back to One News Bilang Pilipino special for the 2022 elections.
Okay.
Okay, joining us today are two guests who have been with us in many of our shows for this election season. First, let me introduce Mr. Attorney Bruce Rivera. Okay, she's joining us today as the closest thing we can get to a Sara Duterte interview. Okay.
Pero siguro naman soon si Sarah. Okay.
Yes,
okay.
and beside her, right next to her, is Amor Maclang, a reputation strategist, and she's known for her work in a lot of digital startups and companies. Amor?
Hi,
Okay.
magandang hapon po.
Amor, thank you for always joining Optics.
Oo, maraming salamat.
Yes. Okay, first, let's jump in with the first question. Bruce, you know, when we were going through the numbers in these elections, and we were noticing, I think most people who were looking at the numbers couldn't help but conclude that it's substantially a Duterte vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So, I guess our question tonight is, who really brokered or delivered Sara Duterte to the BBM campaign?
It's more.
How did that happen?
It's more a confluence of numerous events, meaning numerous factors. So, first factor was that, Sara would not really go with what PRD wanted in the first place, which is a team up with Bongo and run under PDP. So she didn't. That's why she first decided to just go back to running in Davao City. But of course, even before that, I think they already had talks with BBM, for a possible team up, but not really that confirmed. So after when Sara said that she was not running anymore, she called BBM and told him, "You go run for president," because the idea of her being a presidential candidate had already been discarded. However, after that, I think Senator Aimee would just not give up because according to her, it's sayang that a contender who is 20 points ahead of BBM would not be running. So, but I told her, Senator, hindi ayaw talagang tumakbo for president. And I understood Sara because she didn't want really to get that to be president after her father. I think she's, in a way, it's not really that, she's not comfortable with that. So when Aimee said, why don't you breach that idea of a vice president? And Sara said, I don't think people would accept me as vice president, because she was thinking that maybe people are angry with her because she said no and stuff and all the others. However, there was a study conducted, commissioned, a survey commission wherein the same numbers came about, 54% for I think 40. Nakalimutan ko yung number, pero it showed that people would vote for her as vice president. And that was presented to her, and that gave her the idea, because we met in Cebu.
You flew with Sara Duterte
No,
to Cebu.
the funny thing was that I was in Cebu for a medical operation, and then somebody told me that BBM was coming that Saturday, and then Aimee that night called me and talked to me about the possible vice presidential thing, and then that day, the day after, which was the day before we met, I was in Santo Niño, and Sara said, "I'll be in Cebu. I just arrived in Cebu. Will you be free for breakfast tomorrow?" I said, "You're there, BBM's there, and Aimee's coming." So I said, "Okay." So the day after, we went to Seda. We had breakfast. That was the first day. That was the day myself, Aimee, and Sara officially met. We were talking about that vice presidential thing, and she told me, "Well, let's see about that." And then after that meeting, she went and met for the first time with BBM.
So it was not true that
Yeah.
former President Gloria Arroyo brokered the deal.
At that time, it was not even under consideration, wherein there was she was going into running under Lakas. It was something that we didn't really know. But of course, we kind of expected that she was going to get a national
endorsement.
party because HNP was.
It only came after. It only came after you were able
Yes.
to
Broker.
broker
Bring
or
them-
I think it's broker. It's more
arranged
it's more-
marriage.
No,
It
it's
looks like an
more-
arranged marriage,
It's more
right?
float that idea because Sarah is never a person who can be brokered, if you know what I mean. She's not a person who would just say, "Oh, you do this, okay." She's not like that. She's like the father.
So you helped make the meeting happen in Cebu.
I think somebody made the meeting
It was a
happen.
coincidence,
It-
but
it-
you
for
were
me,
there
it was a coincidence.
to get them to talk. So this is the untold story that I think a lot of people
Yes,
don't know, because I think
I think they were
popular
talking already. I was just
popular
there
belief-
because I
yeah.
would put
Popular
some
belief is that
equation.
it was former President GMA who put
And-
together the Unity Team candidates, but
No,
you
I-
actually did it first.
No, I think it was the Marcoses who actually tried to reach out to Sarah because they felt that they felt that she had to go into run in for a national position because I personally believe that BBM was even like he would also want to he would even run for vice president.
Yeah,
with
he was
Sarah.
willing to run for
He
vice
was
president
willing
early
to run
on.
for vice president. I believe that because he waited for Sarah. He never filed anything after the October 1 deadline. He waited because
And there was actually that phone call from Sara Duterte to Bongbong Marcos telling him that go ahead and run
yes,
for president.
yes.
Okay. And that's maybe about the time when he was watching, the family is watching Ant-Man. That incident, right?
Hindi naman daw na-influence doon.
It's
Who
just,
knows?
it's just a side.
So in short,
Yeah.
the father tried to arrange a marriage, but the girl eloped with another man.
Yes, it would seem
Only
like
one
that.
can put it that way. Only you can put it that way.
And I'm the usual sidekick who
Yes.
Correct,
But you're the
You're the-
consentidor.
Nakonsintidor.
You're the consentidor.
You're the
we were
bugaw.
called Senator Amy and I were called the co-conspirators, but we never expected it to happen that way. It was more of a we just wanted to salvage something that needed to be salvaged because
What happened in Cebu, Bruce, that made them, what did they talk about?
What happened at that
BBM and Sara
breakfast?
I was
that
not
made
there.
them decide that,
I was not
because
there.
after from that meeting, the pictures came out. And it was together. They were together already.
I was not there in the actual meeting because
You left them alone.
the breakfast we had a breakfast and she told me that she's going to have a meeting with many people. It was the birthday of the wife of Yeda, birthday
Yeda,
of
of,
Yeda, and of course they would also have a meeting with Governor Gwen. Remember when initially the month before, Sarah already went to Cebu to meet with Governor Gwen, and that was the time she openly said that I am considering your call to run for the president. Initially, when she went to Cebu, I think July, or I think it was July, and then that October she went back, and that was the time we had a meeting, and we were talking about are you open to running for vice president, and he was that was the time I saw okay, I think she would be, or she was considering or have decided to run for the vice presidency. That was the time I was very sure. But of course, she would not really confirm it because she filed, there were 3 COCs that were
Waiting.
that she signed. One for president, one for vice president, and one for senator. And these 3 COCs were given to the lawyer, and with instructions that you file it based on my instructions when you're in the COMELEC.
That's
So
interesting. That's the first time
nobody
I heard that,
knew
there were
about
3
it.
COCs.
And that's the reason why Representative Salceda said he was running for president.
Yeah,
But I was hoping or banging on that little the cryptic clues she would leave in the messages wherein hindi ako tatakbo bilang pangulo. The pangulo is capitalized. So it's really very specific. So knowing Sarah that she's very particular with context clues and cryptics, that's where I got that feeling that she was for VP, and she was open for it.
Okay. Well, let's begin. Amor, cambio ako ng konti.
That solves the story about
Yeah.
this whole who brokered this thing.
No, but I want to add a little bit to that,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
Sige, go ahead.
Because I was with you, gentlemen, November 4. And that was 11 days prior to the filing of the last replacement.
Yeah, the substitution
We were
deadline.
together Thursday. As late as July, I think this much I can say, I had a meeting with Senator Aimee and a few confidants. And even as late as July, she was actually toying with the possibility of her running for office,
Her.
which I shared with you also.
Aimee.
Which I shared with you guys November 4, right? And that long break, I remember, which also I cryptically shared on November 4 with you. I said, Sarah was in Manila, right? And met with a few people. And everyone in that cohort said they're communing with God to decide. So it was that long break. But I think what I wanted to
Communing with
share,
God.
what I wanted to share is that imagine all the powerful female figures surrounding our presumptive president. No? So it's going to be fun and interesting. So Aimee, I think, was really strategic. I don't know, Attorney Bruce, if you'd agree, but Aimee was really
She was.
strategic in all of this. And
Yes.
I have to give it to her.
Yeah. And I think you earlier also mentioned that, was it Aimee who first broached the idea of...
She called me up and
Yeah.
said, "Are you sure that your friend is not really running for anything?" I go, "No, she's not. She's not running for president. How about vice?" And you know, the ate in her is really clear because she told me it's not fair that she's not going to run, and she's number one in the, you know, in the surveys before that. And
The election.
Yes, and maybe perhaps that's the ate there is the ate in her really found a way, because if I'm not mistaken, Aimee actually had to befriend me because she wanted to, you know, wanted to be friends with Sarah. She really likes Sarah a lot.
When you go back to the Pulse Asia tracker, it's been Sara Duterte all the way
Yes.
until she dropped out from
Yes.
the race. And that boosted Marcos.
Clearly, and I think nobody was going to deny that it was Sarah who gave BBM the impetus to actually be considered as a serious presidential candidate. And in fact, I think that the initial reaction of many people was, "Oh my God, it's game over," when PRD, Inday Sara, teamed up with BBM. It
The
was-
numbers haven't really changed since then.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Since December.
Since December.
Since
Since December, yeah.
Yeah. Amor, let me ask you this. You deal with reputations, you deal with strategizing how to present a person. If there was no such team up, Bongbong and Sara Duterte, what could have happened? I mean,
No such team up. Okay, wow, that's unthinkable, no, for us right now.
well, if that happened, I mean, if you took out,
If Bruce wasn't around in
Oh.
Cebu,
I don't think even one would have ran over the. I don't think Bongbong would have ran if Sarah had ran for president,
it was either or.
or either or. I
But
think.
it was also possible that none of them would have teamed up, right? So anyway, continue, Amor.
No,
sorry.
what I find interesting is that this is a confluence of three things, no? The affirmation of the approval of PRRD.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sorry, we cannot deny that. At his lowest, he's at 70%,
Yeah.
which is the most popular we've ever had, right? In a long, long time. But then also Sarah was such a fresh narrative. I mean, I was with you, gentlemen, when we were discussing that, no? I mean, then, of course, there is the patently anti-Lenny bloc, who by default will then gravitate towards BBM. As in, one of the survey companies that I work with constantly, which is Tangere, and it's primarily digital in nature. What was glaring about it, actually online number 2 si Isko, number
Yeah.
1 si BBM. But what's really resonant is that there was such a negative, sorry to use the word, hate, right? And anger towards VP Lenny. So I think it's the confluence of BBM was at the right place at the right time. He benefited from being seen as a continuum of PRRD, and then benefited from the overwhelming support coming from Sarah. And then, of course, there was that unfortunate strong feelings against President Lenny that somehow confluence in his favor.
Yeah. Well, the other question, of course, this is a question we usually ask, political analysts, political strategists. From a reputation point of view, in December, remember President Duterte, practically called Bongbong Marcos
Weak leader.
cocaine addict and
Weak leader.
weak leader, among many other things. And that was a president who was very popular, but obviously, it didn't seem to have any impact.
No,
Di ba?
but
What happened
I
there?
think Bruce is trying to say something
I think
regarding that.
this is a question of the people understanding that those words were coming from a different
Ibang hugot.
hugot from because I think the people knew that there was really the daughter trying to insist on what she wants, and the father trying to tell the daughter this is the better thing for you to do, because let's face it, the father and even Lakas as a party really wanted Sarah to run for the president. She they wanted,
rejected Lakas,
and she
right?
said no, and I think I even had an argument with her through text that trying to prove the point that why don't you run for president, and she said no, I'm not going to run for president. So yung hugot na yon iba. So people, I think the DDS understands that it was those statements that really compelled PRD to say those words, but
Parang tinanan mo yung anak ko.
something like that.
Or pasaway yung anak ko kaya medyo nagalit. It's an
Or it's
anger.
something
So
like
it's something people can relate to, parang ganun.
Parang baka binilog mo yung utak ng anak mo. Something like that. To that effect.
Oh, there you go.
The president also wanted his daughter to run for president.
Of course, he
Yeah,
wanted to run.
Yes.
Wanted
Even
her to run for
at that
president.
time.
But at that time, he wanted it. He wanted a different vice president.
He wanted to pair
Yeah, it was
Her
a different pairing.
with
Bongo.
somebody.
Kaya nga, parang nilalove team nila. Tinanan ng isa eh.
Tinanang isa.
But also
Tinanan.
to your point, Ed, let's not forget that at various points in time, President Duterte did hit the other candidates too.
Oh, he always
Nag-away
does.
din sila ni Isko. He
Yeah.
also hit
Yeah.
Pacquiao at some point,
Yeah.
right? There was also a lot of...
Days before the election. di
Yeah,
ba?
but I
Lenny
think what
Robredo.
Bruce is trying to
So-
say
And it
is
was-
that
yeah.
And
those
it
are
was-
matters of political calculation.
Yes.
Yeah.
But this reaction with BBM
Was a matter of a
father
fatherly emotion.
feeling spurned.
Parang
And if you
Filipinos
notice-
can relate to that eh.
Yeah.
Parang drama sa...
Feeling hurt.
And if you
Parang
notice,
drama sa...
BBM
soap opera.
never
Never
retorted
reacted.
or never
Yeah.
reacted because he also knew that where he was coming from. So he said, si Presidente talaga, Ganun ang sagot niya.
Sorry mga kapatid, alam ko na papunta pa lang tayo sa exciting part ng conversation natin. Pero kailangan natin bring in ng isa pang guest via Zoom, yung mga ibang winners for itong nakalipas sa election.
Yeah.
Let's now bring in San Juan Mayor-elect Francis Zamora. Good afternoon, Mayor Zamora.
Yes, good afternoon at maraming salamat po sa pag-imbita sa akin.
Ed.
Ikaw nag-intuso.
Hinahanap ko si Mayor eh.
Kausap ko
Hinahanap
na si Mayor
mo.
kanina umaga.
Ayan, si Mayor.
Ayun, kausap ko na si Mayor kanina umaga.
Mayor,
Mayor,
parang
be on the
madaling
big screen
araw yung
here.
anong oras kayo na-proclaim? Madaling araw ba yung
Around
taas kamay?
11, around 11 p.m. last night.
Last
night.
night.
last
Last
night.
night. Yeah.
Ayun.
Ang San Juan po ang nauna na nagkaroon ng proclamation. Kaya kami po ay nagpapasalamat dahil maaga rin ho kaming nakapagpahinga. Na syempre yung anxiety ng paghihintay ng proclamation. So medyo sandali lang po ang naging waiting period namin.
Mayor, was it a surprise, win or a victory for you? Nagulat ba
Actually,
kayo
honestly, no.
or kasi ang isang lumalabas, lahat ng mga incumbent mayor, at least karamihan, medyo nananalo. And it might be related to pandemic response or something like that, Mayor. So do you think na nagulat pa kayo na ganito yung lamang nyo or what?
Ako naman po tama. Naniniwala ako na ang COVID-19 talaga ang biggest issue nitong campaign. No? Kung naalagaan natin ating mga mamamayan, nabakunahan ba natin sila, nabigyan ba natin sila ng ayuda, nagutom ba sila o hindi. No? Ito yung mga issues and concerns sa ating mga mamamayan ngayong panahon ng halalan. At ako naman po, I can honestly say that San Juan was able to do very well during this time of pandemic. In fact, tayo po ang unang nakapagkamit ng herd immunity sa buong Pilipinas. Number one po tayo sa vaccination. 19 waves of food packs ayuda all over the city. So we really made sure that our constituents were well taken care of nitong pandemic. We made sure na protected sila, vaccinated sila, no? Lahat ng concerns sila in terms of COVID issues ay addressed. And it's just, for me, no? Opportunity rin ito for mayors to shine. No? COVID is, it's an unusual situation for us mayors. In fact, wala naman talagang mayor na handa dito, kahit naman sa buong mundo. No? But ito yung opportunity para sa isang mayor to step up, no? And to show ano bang kaya niya bilang pinuno ng lungsod. At yun naman po ang ating ginawa. No? Dahil alam ko na ang ating mga mamamayan ay talagang nangangailangan ng pag-alaga at pagkalinga nitong panahon ng pandemya. I want to share also that we won 15-0. So lahat po ng position sa San Juan ay ating naipanalo, from mayor to congresswoman to vice mayor and to all 12 city councilors.
Sweet. That's sweet. Okay.
Mayor, politika naman. I hope this does not sound too too early kasi kakapanalo pa lang ninyo eh. Pero well, clearly yung karibal po ninyong pamilya sa San Juan, they've gained ground naman sa national level. You have both Jinggoy and JV practically bagging seat in the Senate. I know you were able to beat yung kalaban ninyo sa PMP. Pero are you foreseeing some sort of an attempt at a comeback in the next 3 years from your political rivals?
Well, tingnan natin kung ano mangyari. If they both indeed win in the Senate, that means 6 years sila dyan. So pare-parehas kaming hanggang 2028 kung sakali, no? If I will win my third term, so we will all end our terms in 2028. So tingnan natin yung magiging dynamics na. No? It's not something that we're really looking at, no, or thinking about at this point. But let's see kung ano maging final results po sa Senado. Basta ang focus ko po ay dito sa San Juan. Patuloy po tayong maglilingkod na maayos, yung pagpapatuloy na makabagong San Juan. Ito po yung pinaka-campaign slogan namin. No? At nagtiwala po ang aming mga mamamayan sa amin, sa aming liderato at sa mga kandidato po natin.
Mayor Zamora, beyond COVID response, what are your plans and priorities for San Juan over the next 6 years?
Yes, a lot of our projects and programs were derailed by COVID. No? In fact, we had to realign a lot of our budget, a lot of manpower also to COVID response. So now that things are slowly going back to normal, we can again focus on our priority programs. We are currently building 2 high-rise in-city public housing buildings. Yung isa po dyan, 22 stories, isa 23 stories. So ito ay kauna-unahang high-rise in-city socialized public housing sa buong Pilipinas. Tayo po ay 1:1 na rin po sa tablets per public school student. And right now, we also expanded our free fiber optic internet connection sa mga households po nila para magamit nila sa online education and all other internet services that they will need. Yung ating social services po ay matibay in terms of medical, financial, hospital assistance, yung sa cremation, sa burial assistance. Lahat po yan ay in place. So wala ho kaming babaguhin, sa totoo lang. No? Yung 15-0 po na boto o tiwala na natanggap namin, it validates that what we have done during our first term is something that our people appreciate. So we will not really change anything. In fact, we will continue what we are doing because with the results of the elections, it shows that our people indeed appreciate the kind of service that we're giving them.
Hirit sana ako, Mayor, tungkol sa pamilya Zamora eh. Dahil
Sige, please.
I'm a follower ng isa sa mga kamag-anak ninyo no, sa social media at lumalabas na parang no, iba-iba yung sinuportahan ng mga Zamoras nitong nagdaang eleksyon. Pero posible pala na okay lang sa pamilya at hindi kailangan mag-away-away. No? Ganun ba naging sitwasyon?
Well, ako, from the start, I've been very supportive of President Bongbong Marcos and Vice President Sara Duterte. Ako naman po may sariling desisyon. No? If my other family members decided to support other candidates, yun naman po ay nirerespeto ko. At ganoon din naman po, ako yung nirerespeto ho nila. No? So it doesn't mean naman that family members should only support one candidate. Depende naman ho yan sa aming paniniwala. But again, if I may share, ang pinakamalaking factor ho kasi para sa akin is si BBM po ay talagang dito ho sa San Juan lumaki. No? For most of his life, he lived here. In fact, the day he was born in Lourdes Hospital, which is at the boundary of San Juan and Mandaluyong, up to the day his father became president, dito po siya sa Barangay Edition Hills, sa lungsod ng San Juan tumira. So malaking bagay ho yun ang Pangulo ng Pilipinas ay isang San Juanenyo. No? Dahil sa aming mga pangangailangan bilang isang lungsod, no? In terms of infrastructure, in terms of social services, all other needs of our city, alam ko no, na kapag ako'y lumapit para sa aking lungsod, no? Ako'y lumapit sa Pangulo ng Pilipinas, alam kong tutulungan niya po kami dahil taga rito siya.
Okay, I think din po, no, Mayor, yung tatay din ata nyo, well, nagsilbi din under former President Marcos. If I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
a very long time ago, when my father topped the bar exams in 1969, he was handpicked by then President Ferdinand Marcos. So doon din nagsimula ang kanyang public service career sa Malacanang, and then eventually naging congressman po siya ng San Juan for 10 terms. No?
Yeah.
So yes, my father has served under President Ferdinand Marcos for a very long time.
Okay, that would be Congressman Ronnie Zamora.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, apo.
Okay.
Nagsimula yung maging congressman ng IBP, Interim
Yes.
Batas ng Pambansa.
True.
Okay.
Tama po yan, assemblyman ho siya nun, yes.
Okay. Maraming salamat, Mayor. At
Okay, maraming
congratulations
salamat
din.
din po sa inyo.
Congratulations po,
Congrats,
Mayor.
Mayor.
Okay, thank you po.
Okay, I think we need to take a break. One News Bilang Pilipino 2022 special will be back.
That's Isko, right? We all had our hopes on him in a way. Second, yung mga traditional celebrities. Di ba dati, there used to be a time, nagkakandamata yung mga politicians chasing after celebrities. Did that count for much? It didn't, right? And instead, you've seen, micro-influencers, people who are famous for almost being famous, right? Sana wag akong matrol dyan. Pero, yun yung nakikita natin. All the children of one day when I grow up, I want to be famous for almost being famous. Tapos the other thing is, the media and the children of the media, which are the celebrity influencers, were outrightly rejected, di ba? So, we saw here, you call it federalism in politics, we call it decentralization in our little world in technology, no? So, ang mga bangko nire-reject, may direct relationship na ngayon ang mga nagpapautang sa pinapautang. Hindi na kailangan ng third-party intermediaries. Ganun ang nangyari dito. Basically, what our presumptive president said is, I don't need to go through the traditional gatekeepers. People who are kingmakers, PR people, media people, we don't need any of that. I'll go directly.
I don't need to show up in any forum.
I don't need to perform for us. I mean, I'm part of that gatekeeper community that's being eased out, right? Sabi niya, I'll go directly to my consumers, which is something that we're also seeing in other industries, no? Dumidiretso yung proponent sa consumer and then cutting out third-party intermediaries
I
like
guess
all of
technology
us.
is making that possible, right?
Yes,
Technology.
yes.
and
But
social
how do
media.
you how do you correlate, for example, radical transparency with this refusal to answer questions that could be embarrassing or controversial?
Okay.
Diba? On one hand, he's very, very selective with who he gets to talk to and who gets to
Yes.
ask the questions and what issues can be asked of him. So how do you put
Reconcile
one
that.
reconcile
Kasi
it?
sir, kilala nyo kung sinong merkado niya eh. It's the 40 and under. Mukha man tayong 40 dito,
Wala tayo sa
and
40.
under, hindi na tayo 40 and under, so hindi niya tayo merkado. Those things that are valuable to us, which is like a traditional duel. What is debate at the end of the day? It's like a duel, right? Very old school, very gentlemanly. Pero ngayon, ang gusto nating makita, hindi pala natin, no? Nung millennial na 40 and below, yung merkado niya is, I wanna feel something light. Ayoko ng issues. 'Di ba? Gusto kong makita na we're over that 40-year rut na pinipilit nyo sa amin, kayong mga 40 and 50 and above, right? No? Yun yung sinasabi nila basically sa atin. I grew up through that period. I mean, that's just a condemnation of what's important or not important to the voting public.
Okay, I'd like to ask a question to Bruce, okay?
Yes.
I forgot my question. I was-
Okay, before,
was
as you try to
contemplating-
remember, I just wanted to
Yeah.
say though, we also can't discount the fact that they've benefited greatly from this information, right? Because lots of people have done the research, the researchers, the fact checkers, various media outlets. I personally felt that myself. I posted about this, how it took a Grab to work yesterday, and the driver and I were just talking about it. And he genuinely believed that the ill-gotten wealth was never proven, and that the family was incredibly wealthy before they even entered politics. These are the things that have been fed on social media, right?
Actually, I can, many, personally, I did support BBM and Sara. But many of us do not really actually discount that idea. There was martial law, there were victims of martial law, that there was corruption, but at the end of the day, we would also realize that even with martial law, there were also victims of injustice after martial law, after they left. There's also corruption after they left. So, for me personally, it was more like, what's the evil I want to stop now? Were they the person? Are they the evil that I would want to be away from? Are they the fears that I would want to be allayed from? Because the problem is that everything has to be black and white with regard to campaign. If you're not good, then you're bad. So I'm the good, you're the bad. But people realize that you might be both good or you might be both bad. And at the end of the day, who is bad and who is badder or even good or even better. So doon nagkakaproblema because the problem of the Lenny campaign is that we are good, therefore you are bad. And ang ginawa ni BBM is that, well, nobody's good or bad. We're all the same. And people, I think, in a way, people really gravitate to that because aren't we just good and bad in our own little ways? So huwag tayong magpaka-ipokrito na.
I understand what you're saying, but isn't that too much of a relativism? I mean, when it's clearly, when it's we're talking about proportions as well. I don't want to go into an argument, but we're talking about Supreme Court rulings. We're talking about money recovered. So it's not exactly, it's not exactly.
We're going in a circle
Yeah,
in
okay,
this
okay.
argument. When nothing happens
Okay.
with this. We all know what's been said about the
No,
corruption
but
cases, the public
Tito
cases.
Patrick-
I think I got my question back. Sorry, Amor. Now, this is my question. You were talking about BBM not being available to every interview request
Yes.
that comes his way,
Yes.
being very selective. But, Bruce, for you, Sarah,
Okay,
she has not at all given any interview.
Okay.
Okay.
That
why?
can be explained.
Why the
In
why the refusal?
the hesitancy.
The hesitancy.
Okay,
no
first of
single
all-
interview. A lot of TikToks.
Yes.
A lot of Facebook videos, but no interviews.
Okay, here's the deal with Inday. When President Duterte won the presidency, she was quite aware that she had the vast power as the first daughter to take advantage of everything that is in her disposal. But she realized that the media was not going to be friendly to her father. Alam niya yon. So in a way, she became a little bit hesitant to really open up because the media was not giving her father the chance. And of course, she felt that, of course, is mahihirapan si PRD because he knows the father and how he talks and how he deals with other people. And more importantly, Sarah wants to stay in her lane. When PRD ran for mayor for the president, and she stayed in Davao City, she felt that it was Davao City na may obligasyon siya and mayroon siyang duty to engage the people. So it was a conscious effort not to breach beyond the national level. Kasi feeling niya, Davao City
Okay,
lang siya.
she doesn't
Pero
want to steal
ngayon,
the limelight from her father, but her
Yes.
father's already about to step
Finished.
down. She's her own
of course
VP
now,
now.
it's a different story now.
Will she be more available to
Of course,
interviews?
I think. Of course, yeah. Because this is duty-based. So, being the vice president, she knows that she has a duty and an obligation to the public.
It's an office.
To media, there's an office.
Yeah.
So, she realizes that this will be a different thing.
So it's not a question of distrust
No.
or
Of
aversion
course
to...
not.
Strategy.
It's
Or
first, it's
strategy,
strategy for her because, number one, Sarah gets that power of being mysterious and not being too open to the to media because remember it's hindi siya masyado alam mo yung if sometimes people see desperation. If you're too desperate to be elected, people it's a turn off. Isko is an example of desperation.
She wants to be an enigma.
Yeah, she wants to get some sort of an orb in herself.
Okay.
But of course not putting everything on that line because remember she's also human and she doesn't want to put that feelings in public. Of course, there are things that she
Is
would
she
want
more open to Davao City press than to Manila press?
because that's her duty as Davao City mayor.
But she is more open there.
Yes.
I wonder how things are.
In Davao City,
In Davao
she
City.
has her own, she hosts her own show in Davao. Typical to what PRD did when he was mayor. There was she would talk to the press. She has a media people.
What Patrick really wants to know is when can we book her?
Yes. I was
Maybe
getting to
talaga
that.
I will talk
question.
to the person in charge with Inday.
First sit-down
Thank
interview.
you for helping me. For getting directly to the point.
Actually, madami
Bruce,
talaga.
alam mo, ang STL,
Even myself,
kaibigan mo kami sa STL. Alam mo yan.
even myself, I was host of a radio show here in TV5, and she would tell me, no, hindi pwede kasi I'm just a mayor of Davao City. What's the purpose?
But moving forward, no?
Of course.
She's vice president and there is President Marcos elect, no? Will she restrain herself because there's Marcos?
Yeah.
I'm just a vice president.
Okay, here is the deal. When in the proclamation rally, she made a speech, and it is very clear in her speech that she is running for vice president, and therefore she will be vice president, and she is going to protect the president, which means that this is clearly a contrast to what Lenny has been doing. It's clearly a statement because that's her duty as vice president. So the idea of her, she would not be a vice president waiting or there because she will be the next president. That will be out of the question for her. And she's very clear about that. That's the reason why she will be vice president and she will have a big role in in BBM's cabinet.
So you think they're going to be mostly aligned?
Yes.
Because she, as you pointed out before, she is also her own person very much, right?
Yes.
She has her own ideas.
But
in general,
when she sticks to alliances and she makes alliances, she sticks with it. Very particular with that.
More wise ba yun na mag-evolve si Sara Duterte from yung parang may orb around her to a more open kind of media or public servant? Yeah.
You know, I think the way the candidates accessed and used traditional media and social media was very strategic. So in other words, if it didn't serve their interest, they would inhibit themselves. And if it's in the markets that really counted for them, they're super engaged. And they were banking content like almost once a week, right? So, like I said, baka hindi natin yan batch, di ba? Batch yan ng mga 40 and below. Yun ang hinahanap nila. So, is communication, communicating the way we expect them to communicate, or being effective in the target market that they want to reach? There's just one quick thing na sinabi ni Reg kanina, no, about the misinformation. Now, I wouldn't say misinformation or disinformation. It's not for me to say. But why are we stopping at, martial law? Can we not look even way past martial law when all of the non-inclusionary things that were done to our people, no? I mean, ngayon, di ba kanina nung binabasa ni Tito Ed yung party list, words like tindog, uswag, those are all patently Visayan terms, no? And I'm very happy that finally I'm going to have, in my lifetime, seeing someone redefine what Inday meant, right?
Yeah.
We grew up in a generation where Inday carried a certain societal burden. Ngayon, it's now something to be proud of. Provinciano, even your one rider, 19 million motorcycle riders, di ba? Who were at the fringe. Dati, kayo mga four-wheel nagda-drive, pag nakita kayo ng motorcycle, nako, gusto kong
Kamote drivers.
Pero ngayon, they're now at front and center.
So this is part of what you're talking about, decentralization.
Decentralization, other people
It's-
call it federalism. I think we should celebrate that small
Well,
win.
by the way, I'd count believing in Google Trends as a reliable metric for
Oh
better
my
metric than
God.
surveys as disinformation, because you have a lot of people believing in that, so that would count as disinformation too.
Okay.
I would like to ask Bruce, no?
So it goes both
Since
ways.
Sarah wants to be an active vice president, is she interested in taking a cabinet position?
Of course.
What would that be?
And it was really clearly I think it was clearly enunciated and pronounced by BBM that Sarah has a big role. And in her proclamation, she already it was clear in her speech in the proclamation rally in Arena that she was really comfortable. She was presenting two great qualifications or achievements in her office above other things. It was not even fiscal success. First, that she was able to remove the insurgency, CPP, and pay problem in Davao City in 3 years. That's first. And second, that her police in Davao City has the least human rights violations of all the police in all of the Philippines.
So defense
clearly
chief.
either defense and the ALG.
DLG.
Because that's clearly
Okay.
something that these areas where
Up
she
her
knows that she
alley.
can be very effective.
Has it been guaranteed? Would you know in
I
any
don't
way?
know. You know, Sarah is never the person who would guarantee or even say this is the exact same thing until it's there or announced. She's just like that.
Okay.
So yun lang.
Have you heard, total tayo namang anim na nandito eh. Have you heard if there are already any discussions, about future cabinet appointees,
cabinet positions,
alliances
yeah.
being made, and so on. Of course, officially wala pa.
Division
pero-
of spoils.
I was gonna go to that. Let's refine the question, Bruce. Is there a division, at least?
Well, there's a projected division because this is a coalition, by the way.
Yeah.
So
So is there a guarantee, for
BBM
example,
has his
or
own people. Sarah has her own people. The Lakas is also in the picture. Hugbong is also in the picture. All the other minor parties are there. So clearly, of course, the INC is there. Marami talaga ito. This is a rainbow coalition of individuals. So you would expect these people to really want
Well, I
something.
guess to be more specific, Bruce, is there a number? Like, for example, is Sarah to be blunt? Is Sarah guaranteed, let's say, for example, 2 seats in the cabinet?
I don't know if
Nothing like that.
there is such a thing.
Okay.
I think knowing her, she would defer to BBM because as the president, she knows what is the constitutional duty of the president. She's a lawyer, so she knows kung saan siya pwedeng lumugar, and that's really her.
Well, I'm sure she'd be consulted. I mean,
Of course.
in the end, she brought the numbers.
Yes.
Yes.
Diba? In the end, she brought the numbers. So,
Baka pwedeng lumambing ng dalawang cabinet position. Diba? Like,
I think siguro meron kasi of course Lakas. She brought Lakas to the table.
Okay.
So she ran under Lakas. So clearly there is this block of a coalition political block that she's carrying, and I think that is part of the conversation, and I think that this would be this would be part of the cabinet, and this would be part of the negotiations of the coalition.
Well, the we presume, next Speaker of the House would be the cousin of BBM.
Perhaps.
Perhaps,
Because
right.
remember in the past that the speakership has been a contentious issue, even between the father and the daughter. Because I remember the father had a different, there's always this choice as to who is to be speaker, and there are several people that are supported by several individuals. So now I think that's going to be clearly
Has
contested as well.
father and daughter spoken recently?
I really don't know. I know the last recorded conversation perhaps was the time before, I think before October 8th, the October 8th thing that
That far back.
I think
that's
that
the deadline for the filing of COC.
I
That's
think
months
that's
ago,
okay.
ages ago.
Way
I'm not-
before the campaign period.
Of course, I would not know what happened after that, but I know it was both of them were very busy, and they have not been really talking that much during the pandemic.
It's so easy to drop a call or text or.
I don't know.
I remember
I don't
watching
even
a
wanna
video
ask.
where she said that they had spoken, but not about politics now. That's what she said. I don't remember
Yes.
the exact date for that, but
Yeah.
it
Not
may be
even a
during Christmas.
congratulations.
No, congratulations. Exactly.
Remember, Sarah's always been that independent. She's fiercely independent from the father. And many people would say, expect that they are the usual father-daughter tandem, that, it's like, you baby your daughter. They're not like that. In fact, Sarah grew up not really with the father, but he's the father. She knows it. And in fact, Sarah is very, she loves the father. She wants to be like the father. She became a lawyer because of him. So, but it's a different dynamics.
I'm wondering lang how independent Sara could be of Bongbong Marcos as president. I mean, of course, you could be supportive of your president, but at the same time, you would also have your own mind, and you would also have your own your own thoughts,
Knowing
your
Sarah,
opinions.
Knowing Sarah, she will be very independent. And and I think BBM knows that. That he's not going to, hindi din pwede kasi, because Sara is like very by the book, very she's particular with many of these things, is stickler for rules. So BBM I think knows that, and I think he's trying his best not to, not.
Will there be any point that they will clash?
Naghanap na kagad si Manny ang
Naghanap ng away, no?
Hindi, what I see from both of them,
Yes.
BBM is very diplomatic, di ba? He's like, siya parang he's the typical kuya na, hindi mo makita palaban. And Sara is also the same. Sila very shy people. So, I don't think they're going to clash in a way na magiging out there in the open and very.
It's like Bruce said, like she knew the job of a VP and she
Yes.
took it. And she
Yes.
knows it's her job to support the president.
Yes. But she might not agree on all things.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the duty to support is different from the duty to the disagreement on several things, and she'll be open to that.
You guys pointed out that the presumptive president is going to be surrounded by a lot of strong women.
Yeah.
What do we know about the role of his wife in this whole picture?
Of course, the wife is a lawyer. Therefore, of course, she's strong. She's a lawyer, and also she's known to be a strong woman as well. So, and I think BBM is surrounded by strong women.
A strong ate.
A strong ate, a strong mother, a strong wife,
A
and
strong
even
mother,
a strong
that's
running
right.
mate.
Right, exactly.
So maybe baka yun yung
Magparo tayo lang.
He's trained
Sa bahay,
in
di ba?
being strong women.
Hindi ba tayo
Oh,
yung
you were
sa
about to
bahay?
say something.
No,
Yeah, or-
I just wanted to add yung sinabi ni Tito Mogs, no, na will there be a point na mag-aaway sila? When in the 35 years that the Marcoses have been exiled, tell me a point when they actually went out and lashed
At
at
each other.
anyone. Historically, that's not been their strategy. They're the master of the long game, right? Parang, sabi ko nga, parang wow, parang Count of Monte Cristo to, no? Pero iba yung anggulo.
Hindi sila natatakot.
Wala, hindi sila nang aaway. Even to the point when pwede nilang awayin, even during the time of Pinoy, wala silang sinabi at all. Or, nung namatay si President Cory, they even went there quietly, no? So, baka hindi sila maglalaban ng dirty linen, no?
No.
Attorney Bruce.
No, hindi.
Hindi rin ganun si
Or
Inday
because
Sara.
the Marcoses were out of power during all those times.
O de all the more nga, di ba? In order to remain relevant, di ba nakita natin yung mga tumakbo ngayon? In order to keep some semblance of relevance, kahit talunan ka na, at the
Nang-aaway
last
na.
minute, nang aaway, di ba?
Oo.
At saka if you notice, yung family issues, the family dynamics thing, even if it's there in the Marcoses and it's also there in the Dutertes, you don't really get to see it in public because
Yeah.
they really understand that value of family. So maintindihan mo, because of course many families outside of, alam natin kahit yung away ng anak at ama o yung away ng magkapatid, it's there for everyone to
And there's
see.
a very recent example of that, right, Jovi?
Yes.
We saw it this elections, right?
Yeah.
So clearly, these people really know how to treat. What I really learned from all of these is that the Dutertes and the Marcoses, what's common is that they keep alliances and they're really good at keeping alliances because if you notice, lahat naman ng mga dati nilang kakampi, kakampi pa rin nila.
I heard
Okay.
they get that from their mother. And they've said so themselves that their mother is the master. I think the son, BBM himself said that their mother is the master politician.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sure marami pa kaming tanong itong mga fellow editors ko tungkol sa BBM and Sara Duterte ng mga issues pero kailangan natin medyo i-mix up yung yung ating conversation this afternoon.
Something more fun.
Inuna naman ni Patrick yung issue nung tungkol sa nangyari sa mother and son kamakailan before tayo bumoto kasi titignan namin si Robin Padilla ang nasa taas tapos si Lauren Legarda yung nasa pangalawa.
May mother and son issue.
Yung mother and son issue muna before tayo mag Robin Padilla. what happened between Lauren saka isa sa mga anak niya? Nakatulong ba to kay Lauren? At may
Sympathy
possibility ba na mauusan niya si yung number one post sa Senate? Napaka-importante.
Siguro I'll reserve my comments on Robin. Kasi I've had my personal experience working with Robin. Go ahead.
Ako naman for Lauren, nakatulong in a way because this is for me something that I know that Lauren doesn't really like to talk about in the open because sa isang nanay masakit to masakit, and I think even all the people in the unit team understands that na this is something that should have been kept secret, but it was out there, and of course it's unfortunate na nailabas siya, but nakatulong kay Lauren because people now the sympathy is with her as a mother, and it happened during Mother's Day. Parang,
The weekend before,
yes,
the days before
and
that weekend.
how
yeah.
it was, the timing of it is painful, but I don't think Lauren is even happy that she got to experience this surge at this expense. You know, this is what you call the irony of it all. Because kahit nanalo si Lauren, alam naman niya the painful side of it at whose expense. So, for me, this is a bittersweet victory. It validates, to a certain point, it validates that idea that mothers are sacred and should be respected and should be given at least the modicum of respect, even if they're not even good mothers, for example. But it's not going to be that level of shaming. But number two, it also shows that the family really is the one that suffers when politics, you allow politics to eat the moral fiber of your family.
Tito Jove, ang naapektuhan talaga dito, you know who was the casualty of the mother-son dynamic? Was the campaigning of Vice President Lenny, because that was used as a proof point of the level of toxicity, okay, that apparently, I mean, I'm just quoting many pundits, no, that defined their campaign, and that was actually what sadly turned off many people, so ginamit yun against.
And ito ako just want to point out that dun sa part naman ni Lenny, I've learned that hindi naman talaga toxicity yung kanilang purpose eh. When you say to educate people, it's more, the intent was to educate, but ang dating, iba yung dating sa mga tao na it's not educating, it's more a little bit, naging toxic tuloy. So siguro it's the bad intention. It's a good intention, but the bad of perception ng mga tao, because iniisip ko palagi, hindi naman siguro iniisip ng team nila na we're going to be toxic. But their idea was to educate. But remember, many Filipinos, tayo lahat, we are the most confident in social media, but we are the most ignorant. So let's face that. So you don't want to educate people kasi parang sasabihin mo, bakit kailangan magpa-educate sa'yo? So dumating, may point of arrogance na that was the reason why many would just shut down when they are being educated.
Actually, I was also wondering about that. I mean, I've been seeing it around for weeks already. Let me educate you. Who said that? Was there somebody who really said that?
No.
I heard.
Or was it
I
just
heard
ano?
Sherda
It was the
talk about
people
that.
around, well, yes. But
Yeah.
then also the people surrounding the campaign, or even the tone and tonality of those who were supporting the Pink campaign. So maybe that's how it came across, whether it's, as Attorney Bruce said, deliberately or not, di ba?
I guess when you see posts like simba ka ng simba, boboto ka naman sa magnanakaw. There's a lot of moralizing going on. I guess that's what you mean.
Yes, sinasabi
That's
nila na
not
parang it's more a
literally-
binary approach, meaning if you're good, you're good. If you're bad, you're bad. So walang in
Tama.
between. So pag sinabing magnanakaw yan, bakit ka boboto? Bad yan. So what they're trying to do is educate us on bakit ka, kaya tinatanong why. Boboto ka kay BBM, why? Yung mga tao, iisipin mo, why do I have to explain to you, Jove kita? Yung ganun. Or yung mga little things na...
I get what you mean. I think everybody
it
gets
becomes something more
Yeah.
of a, you are already intruding. There is an intrusion on my choice choice ko to. So instead na makuha mo yung tao, ang sasabihin ng tao, naging combative na tuloy. It's already a defensive mode na why are you trying to educate me? So, siguro the approach was wrong.
But also, let me put it this way. Hindi ba lahat sila ganun? For all sides. I mean, I also get the same thing from my bashers na
That's
ikaw
right.
bobo
Your
ka.
first-hand
Here's
experience
the-
of this.
Hindi ka marunong mag-research.
Yes, he gets a lot of that.
So I'm wondering,
Well, it's everywhere. I think.
I'm wondering
I know.
I'm wondering how one worked and the other did not.
The good thing about BBM and
That's
Sara
why we have a
is
divide, Bo. That's
They
why it's
never-
polarized.
No,
It's
I mean,
everywhere.
they never
Everyone's doing
encourage.
it.
Yun ang problema, they never encouraged it. Even, for example, pag sinasabi na i-attack, they would not join in the fray. They would, ang mga tao lang, of course there are people who are negative. There are people who are toxic by themselves. So naghahanap lang yan sila ng butas and then they'll go. Hindi mo makokontrol yan.
I don't think Bongbong and Sara will attack their opponents, but they have attack dogs like Gadon, Harry Roque, who doing for them.
In fact, in all honesty, si Gadon is ginusto. He really likes that. You know that
He
point.
thrives in it,
Walang oo. Ito kasi yan eh. Many people thought that in order to be, uso ang maging thug sa politika. Uso ang magmura. But ako, I always believe that President Duterte is there because he is Duterte. Tapos na wala nang ibang gagawa nun. If you do another Duterte, people will simply say, ooh, if you look at the results.
Yeah.
See, Gadon did not place, he's applauded in all the rallies.
Ay, pero Tony, mataas siya. Did you see his numbers?
Maybe you should go to the wall.
Top 20,
Number
pero
20.
hindi pa rin nanalo. Ang nanalo yung mga masyadong, yung either very humble, like Robin Padilla, clearly very humble, but if you notice, yung mga medyo
Palaban.
palaban,
Like Harry Roque, Marcoleta.
yeah, because remember, ako ganun din ako, palaban ako.
20.
Polarizing yan eh.
Tony, he's number 20 and he doesn't really have a machinery and
Well, but Bok, he's right beside someone who's also known to be very
Trillanes.
Trillanes. He's
Yeah.
also he's not very. I mean, maybe Trillanes has better vocabulary, more choice vocabulary.
But
it
let's
just
face
shows
it.
that. Diba? It's
Let's
the
face
same.
it. It's polarizing. When you
Polarizing.
talk about something very, it's pag masyadong malakas at masyadong medyo nakakaano na, nagmumura na. Either you get people to really all of the people to vote for you, or you will risk people na ayaw bumoto sa iyo. Madidivide, mawawalan ka talaga ng boto. And
I guess Amor, no, you're probably more familiar with this because of your work in tech. About how people now are being triggered and outraged and put into different silos or echo chambers.
But that's also why, if I could just answer briefly yung kay Tito Mogs, na none of the candidates really said, ironically, it's the BBM Sara campaign that ran a virtuous campaign. Okay, meaning they did not hit at anyone when everyone else was hitting at them. Okay? And then, Tito Patrick, you talked about technology. They preferred to work on an asynchronous way to respond. Maglalabas ako ng TikTok video, maglalabas ako ng YouTube video na gustong-gusto ng Merkado Ka 40 and below, and I'll wait for you to react to it. But yung one-on-one, like I said, that old-style duel, right? Na panahon pa ni Hamilton, mag-meet tayo, duel tayo. Hindi na ganun yung hinahanap. Ayaw ng 40 and below, ng toxic, ng negative. Gusto nila virtuous campaign. And ironically, tingnan mo kung sino nag-deliver ng virtuous campaign.
And ako, I have a story with Sarah. When she was attacked by Walden Bello, talagang attacked. Napagalitan ako, hindi ko napigilan. Ako yung sumagot. Kasi I got hurt. Parang, wait. Tapos sabi niya, wag mo na lang kasing pansinin. Kasi normal naman talaga yan sa mga tao na magagalit. Kasi, but I am one of those na napagalitan or nasabihan na wag mo na lang i-engage kasi understandable na magagalit ka. They do really get that point na it's going to be disadvantageous or more prejudicial if you engage politicians in that regard. So siguro yun yung that was what the people saw. That's why they gravitated to them. Yun ang nakikita ko.
There's an 18-to-1 rule online. For every one negative, you have to pump 18 positive to neutralize the negative. It's all numbers, it's all math. And the point is, for 4 years ago, they've been pumping content right and left, right? So kahit ano man yung ilagay mo dyan, and on the video format, hindi article format, wala nang nagbabasa, sorry, ng article. So, for every one negative, 18 ang pinapasok nila and they've been starting from 4 years back. Can you imagine? Pang-neutralize, grabe.
I think they had a better strategy, no? Kasi they're not doing the attacks, but other people
Someone
are doing it for them, like the micro-influencers, the people who support them. Yun ang nangaaway eh, di ba?
The micro
Yan nila yung
influencers.
ecosystem.
Both sides have that.
Yeah,
I think we have to
pero-
point out here, because
Yeah.
when we talk about micro-influencers and attacks,
sides yan.
we talk as if it's just coming from one side.
No,
Even
it's-
disinformation.
I agree.
We have to take notice also that it's coming from all sides.
Okay.
And
An
it's
coming from
example,
all
It's
sides.
human nature, ha?
an example,
And that's being
Patrick.
just smart.
Yes.
That's the
Human
sign of the
nature yan.
times.
An example,
Inisip mo
Patrick.
lang ng context
Yes.
na sumagot.
Yes, Jovi?
Kapag guest namin si BBM sa STL, alam niyo na kung sino umaatake sa amin. Pag guest namin ang kampo ni
We also
Lenny
get attacked.
Robredo sa STL, attack naman ng kabilang kampo. It's the same
If we
thing.
have Gadon on one side, I
Yeah.
think the F word also counts, coming from Walden Bello, a respected academic, also counts as a nasty attack, right? No matter how we put them in the political spectrum, it's the same thing.
So basically,
Basically, what I'm saying, it's coming from all sides.
Yes.
And basically it's the
let's
same.
not make it look like it's just coming from one side.
Well,
This is not to,
basically, we are polarized.
That's my
Yeah,
point. That's
And-
that's my point.
What I noticed was that when VP Lenny would go into like this conversation of saying that I'm the victim of the misinformation and she's the victim of that. Please, she should not forget that BBM is also a victim of all these bashings. Everyone is a victim. Like Sarah has been a victim of all these things. So parang lumalabas sa mga tao, parang hindi lang naman ikaw ang biktima eh. Marami kayong biktima. It's just that you're much open to that and you get more of the sympathy from media, from all the other establishment na, uy, kawawa si VP Lenny. She's a victim of media. She's a victim of misinformation, disinformation. And the problem is, she would point it out na si BBM ang may dahilan. So, and BBM never claimed that he was a victim. He would just simply shrug it off. So, ang mga tao nakita nila, that's the problem. People see the injustice because VP Lenny has always been supported and, many people would tell, uy, kawawa, na biktima siya. But at the end of the day, they're all victims.
Or certain fact points, like for example, martial law or EDSA. I'm not here to say whether that happened or not. No, I wasn't even born. I wasn't even born yet at that time. Pero yung experience ng mga tao sa probinsya, kakaiba ang experience ng mga taga Maynila. I just have to put that out there. It's not for me to say what's true or not, but then if you do talk to the people in the provinces, they have a totally different experience. So something to think about.
Okay.
But perception is different from the truth
Exactly.
as well,
Yeah,
right?
But who holds the truth?
Exactly. From
Truth
whose
is truth.
perspective?
Truth is history, right? Which is written history that's been proven.
Written by
we
the
also can't
victors
compare the
primarily.
misinformation with the bashing, because it's one thing to be bashed because people don't like you, but it's another thing entirely to be bashed and accused of things that is wrong.
I can speak for myself in saying that I was 13 years old when I was born during the martial law days. I was born September 30, 1972. So my mother was like, I was 9 days. When martial law was 9 days old when I was born. So I grew up in that era. I was 13 years old when Cory Aquino, when the EDSA revolution happened. I was with Cory and Chris in Cebu when they had the rally, and that was the time that they hid from because the EDSA revolution came about. What I remember is not enough for me to say that there was abuse or we were in bad times during that period. I was too young to remember then. I did not have all this information to say that merong ganito, merong ganyan. But of course, I knew that there were abuses because two of my uncles were killed. You know, I knew abuses were there because when I was in Magsaysay, Davao del Sur, when I was growing up, the police were a little bit abusive. They were abusive. And my aunt was a mayor at that town then, so we knew that even with her as a mayor, the police was abusive. So these are things that I knew, but I could not, in my little humble way, say that the Marcoses were responsible for that. Of course, I could also say that they were responsible or not responsible. But from my perspective, it's very difficult to say that just because history said it, that's it. That is the truth.
I think it's easy naman for us to argue endlessly about whoever wrote
happened,
history.
yeah.
But sa akin, simple lang naman eh. There was money.
Stolen.
Recovered. No, even if you don't go into stolen, there was money recovered in the billions. And sa akin, yun na lang eh.
Tito Ed,
it's,
siguro...
It's not even, I mean, it's not even, I understand what you were saying kanina na we're all victims, but I suppose it's also unfair to some people to say that we're all victims at the same level.
Different.
Or equally
Yeah.
victimized. There are also gradations and there are also levels of victimization. Eh. So I just want us to be careful then not to oversimplify.
Yes.
That's
I
true.
think we all agree here that things tend to be oversimplified
Yes.
by both sides.
Yeah.
I just have to say that by both sides. So it's like Bruce said. There are nuances to every situation.
Yes.
We all have our experiences, Bok. No, fortunately or unfortunately, for us, I think we were a lot older than the 13 years old that Bruce was when
I was just a little
86.
older. You were a lot older. Manny was
Just a
not much
little
older.
bit.
So we all lived through it, and we have all our different experiences. We don't need to go into details on what those experiences were, but it's different. My experience is different from Manny or yours or from Jovi, even though we were all alive by then. No?
Yeah.
So I guess
And
that's
perhaps
it.
the funny thing is that many of the people would simply say, we were victims, but maybe perhaps there were other victimizers or abusers that they are more angry of. Kasi for me personally, if you look at the 40 and above, or the 50s, the 1972s and above, many of them really understand martial law. Many of them really say, I have so many friends that voting for a Marcos is a non-negotiable for them. Really, they would not vote for a Marcos. And I do understand them because it's coming from a place of hurt. But people of after martial law have a different perspective, and maybe they have a different abuser in mind. And maybe that's the phenomenon now.
You would find it strange that some people who did not actually live through that period are more feel more strongly about that period. So I just
Well, let me put it this way. We're a country of 85% Catholics. How many of us lived through Christ?
I know where you.
Good point.
That's kind of simplifying it, Ed. No, so sorry, but really,
And you have people who are very, very passionate about that.
Or maybe let's focus on who's really important here, the people who voted. And basically, they're not saying it happened or did not happen. What they're basically saying as a vote for the presumptive is that might not be as relevant to their generation as it is to our generation. Maybe that's what they're saying. That's what they're saying.
How people view these issues and how things have changed over the years.
Okay,
and why
we're
they
gonna
have
put a
changed.
pin on that because we do have to go on a gap right now. Bilang Pilipino 2022 here on One News. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Pulse Asia President Ronald Holmes will talk to us after the break. Stay with us.
Bilang Pilipino, bilang Pilipino.
And we're back, and now joining us via Zoom is Dr. Ronald Holmes, the president of Pulse Asia. Sir, magandang hapon, and thank you for joining us. Sir, I think your audio is muted.
Naka-mute.
No, I don't have any voice anymore.
Well, sir, I'm sure you've seen the numbers, and the numbers, at least from the count, 95% plus, more or less tumutugma doon sa sa Pulse Asia numbers.
Well, it's a little bit higher for at least the first two candidates, the first and the second candidate for the presidency. Last time we did our survey, Bongbong Marcos was at 56 and the vice president was at 23. Right now, I think Bongbong has about 58 and the vice president has 28% of the votes. So there's been some movement, but not a significant movement to upset Mr. Marcos in the presidential race.
So, Dr. Holmes, who lost
Yeah,
a lot in this election?
Ano yun, Mogs?
Sinong natalo dito sa election? Si Isko Moreno ba?
Well, lahat ng ibang kandidato natalo, but eventually, I think,
Ba't may malaki? Malaki.
no, if we go back, Mogs, dun sa September 2021 survey, at that time, nandun pa si Sara, no? We had Sara then, and Sara was, I think, polling at 20. And then Bongbong, Isko, and Manny Pacquiao were both at double digit, about, I think, 13 to 15, statistically tied. The vice president then was at 8 points, 8 percentage points. So if you look at it, at that time, people were saying that Isko was really in contention, battling it out with Bongbong Marcos and Manny Pacquiao. And then suddenly, Sara decided, I won't run for president, went in tandem with Bongbong. And that tandem basically produced the ethno-linguistic vote that we saw, basically generated one-third of the support that Bongbong is getting right now, which he did not get in the 2016 elections.
Sir, we're projecting on the screen, I don't know if you can see it now, yung Pulse Asia survey from December 2020 all the way down to April 2022. And very graphic yung very instructive actually yung line graph based on the Pulse Asia survey. We can see nga in September 2021 with Sara still topping with what, 25 thereabouts?
20, and then before that, the survey had Sara, I think, at 26, and then she dipped considerably from, I think, our June survey to the September survey.
Ang hindi lang, sir, na-capture, I suppose, is yung October 8 filing ng COCs. At at that time, I think it was Sara who filed for mayor ng Davao City. So parang the interest was, where are you going? And what you did capture was December 2021, yung pag-angat ni Bongbong Marcos all the way up to, what number is this?
53% in December.
December.
Yes.
And in fact, in their notes, it says that's the first time since 1992 that the front runner got a majority in a survey. So that was significant.
No one else, even Erap Estrada nor Noynoy Aquino. I think Noynoy Aquino's highest was about 44 or 45 in a survey that we conducted sometime, I think, in October 2009.
From our data, Mr. Holmes, it would seem that the only other president who got 60%, around 60%, is the father in 1969.
Well, many of them actually, if you look at it, although the father did get 60% in 1969, but our history books, at least one version of history that I am familiar with and I recall, would categorize the 1969 elections. I was just 5 years old then, so this is something that I read, as the most fraudulent election in history at that time. Okay. And Marcos then got more than 60%. But that was not the record. The record at that point was still Magsaysay, who got, I think, 69% in the 1953 elections.
Oh, yun pala. Mas
okay. And back then, at least before martial law, we were still
A two-party system.
within a two-party system. Of course,
Yeah,
there was a
we
third
had
wheel
one.
always.
We
but-
had one president, Pat, who did not get a majority then. That was Carlos P. Garcia. We had also some vice presidents who did not get majority support. Macapagal as vice president in 1957, and Paez as vice president when Macapagal became president.
Yes, sir. Sir, bukod ako ng konti, in the last few weeks before the election, medyo naging controversial yung mga pulse surveys, especially for those who preferred to rely on other metrics, and I'll use that in quotes. For example, nga, yung Google Trends, yung mga rallies and all. But in the end, the numbers uphold your numbers.
Well, yes, and then remember, Ed, Pat, I think in one of our discussions in Wag na po, I was saying that there's a possible change and it may come about from certain events. I was expecting that the meeting de avance might have an impact because we saw some impact of the meeting de avance in 2016. And then the house-to-house campaign, because the claim was that, you got about 1 million volunteers going house to house. And if they just influence, let's say 2 or 3, that's a significant number already. A swing that can basically move up the second running Vice President Robredo, closer to Marcos. But it did not happen. There was some movement, but it was not sufficient to overcome the lead of Bongbong Marcos.
So
In
as
fact,
a-
Bongbong Marcos even increased.
yeah.
Yes, and I think, well, I'm still looking at the data. It's partial and unofficial. I've been asking the COMELEC for some data. There are breakdown of the data. But one of the things that I noticed about the data is that because the COMELEC said 88% voted, but if you total the number of votes that they now have in the partial unofficial, it constitutes only about 79%. So does this mean that there were about 9% who voted who did not anymore indicate a preference for president? That's something that I need to find out, and I think that will only come about when we do have the final tally that will be officially before the formal proclamation from Congress.
So as a follow-up to Ed's question, Dr. Holmes, I was wondering if anyone's apologized to you yet about
Especially those friends of yours who
for all the
were-
criticism you copped
Yeah.
in the last few weeks of the
Well,
leading up to the
of course,
election.
It would be good because it was pretty toxic, specifically in social media. There were occasions that I appeared on live TV, and you could see the comments really running, and they were really below the belt. No, but again, I don't know. It's par for the course. It's painful, but it's something that we just have to absorb. Whether an apology will be given, it's not up to me to request or ask for. It's something that I think should be coming volitionally from people who may have thought that they went beyond the bounds of constructive criticism.
Okay, has it at least subsided or eased a bit?
It has subsided, but you still have the conspiracy theory that everything that was done in the survey is part of the propaganda of whoever is now polling better. Having good numbers and winning in the partial unofficial results. And as I said, we've never been part of any partisan group. We remain nonpartisan. We have our political convictions, but those are not in any way interfering in terms of our work as opinion takers. We would rather not make any opinion. We would rather just basically publicize what the opinions of the
Okay,
public.
I wonder if you can help us around here. Now, we've been seeing this post going around social media about certain patterns in the votes. This 65-42 or something like that. So, can you help us
16-32.
explain why it is so that there's a pattern?
I have to look at those things. Nowadays I just remember that this was the same pattern allegedly that was seen in 2016. At that time, it was an allegation coming from the Marcos camp that was peddled against the administration then. Now you have it coming from the opposite camp, from allegedly supporters of Vice President Robredo, saying that there are some, suspicious this transmission of data that keeps that particular distribution in terms of voting support. The statisticians that I've consulted with are saying that it's not improbable that this is something that you see, especially as the votes really come in. Of course, you need to do some forensics here, and unfortunately, I don't have the time right now to do that. Maybe some groups would do that. Maybe PPCRB has to look at it.
Okay. Sir, pahabol lang. Okay, 2022 is done. How do you think this election cycle has affected confidence in survey firms, in the science of surveys?
Well, I hope in general that it has brought back the value of science as a general field. I don't mind that I've been saying that surveys have limitations, but when partisanship trumps science, this is bad for society. Any society for that matter. When we believe when we are driven by disinformation rather than reliable information, that is bad for any democracy. That is the death of fundamental liberty. That is the death of our freedom of information and freedom of expression.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Holmes.
Dr. Ronnie Holmes, sir. It's always good to see you again.
Maraming salamat.
Sir, yung shirt niyo ba, may ano? May
Pwede na mag-pink ngayon.
Yeah, sabi nila,
Tapos na election.
o baka pula siya, tapos may white stripes lang, kaya mukhang
hindi
pink.
na,
Pwede
pwede
naman
na.
ganun.
It's
From where we're
post-election.
sitting, Ronnie, it's pink.
Pink.
I guess it's okay by now.
It's post-election now, so I can wear most
Yes.
of my shirts. Most of my shirts are colored pink anyway.
Yeah, also.
Tsaka mistiso yun talaga si Dr. Ronnie Holmes eh. In the pink fella. Di ba, sir? Okay, sir. Maraming salamat, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Holmes.
Salamat. Okay.
Okay, so there, after all that discussion about Google Trends, there you go.
Pero,
Disinformation, Bob. It's another form of disinformation.
whether
It's all
the
sides.
past
Everybody
ASA
does
is
it.
correct or not, they will get the blame.
Yeah.
May
Which I think is very unfair.
Damn if you
Because
damn if you don't.
don't kill the messenger, diba?
Yes. I call Google Trends in this election season the ivermectin of this election season. It's the pill versus science.
Well, Patrick, Lenny could have a high percentage in Google Trend, but the sentiments are not really positive.
Well, that's why. It's
Exactly.
Sabi mo nga,
Exactly.
I looked
even
at Google Trends.
It's like ivermectin. They said it's not a cure for COVID, but people don't believe. Now, Google Trends, Google itself is saying it's not an indicator of it's not a poll.
Yeah.
And people still believe it is.
But that's why
It's kind
Mike Defensor lost.
it's kind of weird because I only resort to Google Trend if I want to search a person I don't know.
Right.
So
Now,
this-
in the Philippines,
Yeah.
we don't search based on search
exactly,
engines.
exactly.
We use social
Yeah.
media.
We go straight. People go straight
How
to
many
TikTok
of
or
us
Facebook.
actually
yeah.
go straight to
Kaya nga
Google?
nauso yung IGMG, i-google mo, ibig sabihin kasi maraming hindi gumagamit nun.
That's what it
It's
means.
IGMG.
IGMG.
This is Filipino behavior, right?
Okay.
Primarily Filipino behavior.
And last week kasi I looked into Google Trends eh. Okay, Lenny Robredo was 55, Bongbong Marcos was 25.
Pero yung 55
23.
niya,
Pero
hindi
What
lahat
about the search?
positive.
if you zoom
Keywords.
into the search, yung top rising query about Lenny Robredo, at least on that day that I looked, kasi it does change every so many, depends on how you, the top searches were, bobo ba si Lenny?
oh God.
Yeah.
For the first two searches. So
It's not
it
fair.
gives you an indicator as to whether or not it's sentiment driven, which is not, or simply volume driven.
And I'm just curious, who gave that idea to the Lenny camp or even to
I think it's
people?
not
I think it's
so much
the
the camp, it's the
supporters.
people. The
Yeah,
supporters.
it's
People.
supporters. It
Looking for
started from them.
looking for metrics.
And this is
that could
and I've said this before. I actually teach Google Trends to students.
There you go, yeah.
Google tools.
Okay.
Yung numbers
Baka ikaw yung-
there, they're not absolute numbers, right? They are a ratio in proportion to the search interest in that period of time, if you understand what I mean. So if you see 50% doesn't mean, or if you see a number like 50, it doesn't mean there's 50,000 people searching. It means 50% in relation to whatever is
How many
popular
people?
at that moment. Yun lang, that's what the numbers mean. So again, to answer your question, we don't know who started that conversation, that idea that
Because
it
that's,
could be.
because that's the reason why many of the supporters had their hopes up.
Yes.
Because they were thinking
Yes.
really that it's going to surprise everyone.
Yes.
But people who were at the back, I was never shocked at the results. I expected it.
And they were saying kasi because tumugma yung results sa France and Singapore.
Canada.
But it's always possible man tutugma eh.
Pero kakaiba tayo, sir, di ba? I mean, dito ang uptake sa atin is really staggering when it comes to technology. And everyone knows who's doing social media marketing, that Google Trends is, and that already precludes most of Filipinos who are not connected online. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Filipinos who don't Google, which is a lot of
I
people.
don't.
Just do Facebook,
Oh,
Instagram.
just go to your circle and say,
Facebook
ano tingin nyo?
search,
if I'm interested in
Yeah.
someone, I go to IG, right?
Yes.
Yeah. We go straight to the apps, to the
Or you
social
call.
media.
Amen. That's correct.
But to be fair, it was not the camp that was pushing this narrative. It was more like the supporters.
What I just found sad was, pulsation was being battered for so many weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because clearly, I'm bothered by the fact that we are willing to forgo science.
Vilify,
Yeah, forgo
establish.
science.
Actually, that's a question for you guys. Have you seen that before in previous elections? Na yung the pollster is the one that's being blamed.
Well, it does happen
Yes,
naman
it
talaga.
does happen.
It does happen.
Yeah, I think Dick
Not to
Gordon has
just
been blaming the survey firms.
But it's
Right.
always the candidate questioning when he's falling behind the
Yeah.
surveys. But it's this time it's like the support base.
And ngayon kasi wala
It's carrying
kang, wala
on
kang
that
alternative
argument.
metrics eh. Before.
Before, walang
Ngayon kasi
alternative
meron kang
metrics.
alternative
Well,
metric.
well,
na
well,
different.
well,
In the
Okay,
past,
okay.
the pollsters had different variations of results.
Yes.
Unlike now, it's all of them
Consistent.
were for BBM. So, saan ka hahanap ng alternative?
Because although they were classified, the two other pollsters, social weather stations and the Lilo report, the numbers we were seeing were all the same.
Yes, they were aligned
Basically
with
the
the
same
Pulse
line.
Asia numbers.
Also Okta.
Also Okta.
And Tangere. Primarily digital, yeah.
So how is it possible for all of them to be in a conspiracy to fudge the numbers or anything?
Well, I remember Tangre also did the exit polls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pero yung negative sentiment yung na-pick up nila talaga. Because when you do primarily online scrapes, you are able to compound other, hindi lang trends, pwedeng social media, even conversations in chat groups can be tracked.
Oh, really?
Yes. Oo, kaya ingat. Ingat tayo sa mga chat groups, sir.
Ingat sa mga sinishare money.
Correct.
Talaga si Manny.
Dapat sa signal, may self-destruct.
Okay.
Ako nga, meron akong restrictions, not because of my personal page, but because of the pages that would add me or make me a part of. And if they have a negative reputation, damay ako.
Don't
because
chat
of-
unless may self-destruct. Dapat yan ang bago nating hashtag.
What do you mean self-destruct?
May self-destruct?
Yung ano,
5 seconds, 10 seconds, yeah.
If you send some pictures na medyo risque,
Eh kung wala naman kami tinatago eh. Ano ba namang...
Yun nga, di ba?
Oh, pictures daw. Pictures daw.
Ano
Pictures.
If
Pictures
wanna
that you
send
forward.
pictures, and
Grabe naman.
you want the pictures to self-destruct after seeing it. Give me that idea.
Your words, not mine, sir.
So Signal is the safest.
Signal is one of the safest.
Manny,
Maria
take notes.
Reza taught me that.
That's
right?
Signal with an S.
Signal with an S, and
Not
then for your
Signal, our
email,
network.
Proton Mail.
Proton Mail. Ang gulo na ng Proton Mail eh. Kailangan may mga layer.
bayad
Ed naman spoken like a true,
It's a lot better to just
Encrypted.
Just live in the, no,
Just be
better is
safe.
Just be
live
nice
under
and
the
safe.
light.
You wanna be safe? Mag-typewriter ka na lang. Ipa.
Yeah, meet in person.
Okay, all right. I think
Okay,
we have to go
napagalit
for
na tayo.
another gap.
Gap daw tayo. We will take a short break. One News Bilang Pilipino 2022 special. We'll be back after a while.
May gap pa, patapos na.
Bilang Pilipino, bilang Pilipino.
Welcome back to One News Bilang Pilipino 2022 Election Special. Yeah.
Kulang, ano?
Suwabe ba? Suwabe.
Hindi, ang gusto ko lang itanong,
Pero wala nang budots money.
wala na.
Tsaka hindi na uso budots money ngayon. In this
Paro-paro
election,
na.
it's paro-paro G.
Ang gusto ko lang itanong, no? We were surprised by the results of the elections for the senator. Number 1, si Robin Padilla. Bakit ang nangyari yun?
Sir, I'll tell you something. Whether kaibigan ko ay taga Forbes Manila or taga Forbes Park, binoto nila si Robin. It is a referendum, I feel, on the Duterte administration, who at its lowest is at 70%. And the one thing that you can say about Robin is he has consistently supported the president. Right? I mean, through and through. Actually, yan nga yung pinupula. Pero naman, in fairness to Robin, no? Talagang consistent siya even before the administration. Nakarally ko na yan. Nag-rally kami sa Congress in favor of women's reproductive rights. Of course, or whatever you take that, no? Tapos Marawi nandyan yan. He actually lost a lot of projects,
Yes.
commercial projects, because of his political stance.
Correct.
And apparently, yan ang gusto ng mga tao. Yung
Humility
transparency, yeah.
Humility also goes a long way. Because if you notice, Robin was never abrasive in his public statements against anybody. Makikita mo, even in the campaign, he's just simply stating facts. Nakikita ng tao yung humility ni Robin. He never claims he's good at this, good at that. But he
studies, he works, oh my God. And
nashock ako nung the first time I saw him talk in public. Parang, ito ba si Robin? I was shocked because people...
He
because he's
studies his
getting through
materials,
people,
yeah,
getting through
he
people.
does.
So, and I expected him to be in the top 5, but never as number 1.
I expect him
but
top 10.
there's also a lot of material, content.
We were
on-
gonna
on
get to
social
that.
media, right?
Yeah.
So did that help? I mean,
He did not have an infrastructure.
No.
I
No,
can
no,
tell you for
the-
a fact.
But the social
content.
media thing, I think, kind of
the
helped.
song, the singing,
Yes.
and the dancing.
Yeah, but,
Wonderful
but sorry,
Talking about
sorry.
it before.
Even prior to that, he's been working on content. He always does live. Yun na nga di ba? Yun yung,
I know, but Amor, I remember he was not always within the winning circle, the Magic 12.
he was always top 12, sir. Mostly, he
Was he?
was. We
Yeah,
were
he must be.
monitoring,
But
but we
maybe-
never expected number
Lo-
1.
lower?
Never.
Lower, maybe?
Never expected
Parang
number
tanda
1.
ko, Bok, pasok sa kagad eh.
Pasok mo siya.
pasok ka.
Oh, but
The-
never number
The
1.
problem with the
What-
Senate is it's a name recall thing eh. Lahat yung mga incumbents
It is.
palagi, yun talaga
Yeah.
yun eh. So you have to do something really special to actually get into that level of the circle's level, so winning circle.
Amor, we're looking now at images, a video of Robin. Okay, I think the audio is down, but he's singing Wonderful,
Wonderful Tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.
But guys, ang
Okay, who
nakiki-
thought about that?
Okay.
Because, you know, when
Kinanta
first time
niya
we
sa
saw
ano,
it,
Meeting de
we thought,
Avance yan. Kinanta niya sa Meeting de Avance.
Okay.
he's singing it everywhere.
Is,
Right?
okay, awkward yung kanyang pagti-TikTok. I mean, kahit sino man sa atin siguro mag-TikTok, awkward, no? But you have to understand, even prior to the elections, grabe siyang mag-post sa social media. Lahat nila live. Lahat.
Yung treadmill, Bok. Remember?
Treadmill may iba rin.
Guys,
Yeah.
one time
Nasisi siya
nga.
na ano eh.
Alam mo kung saan siya nag-live? Yung sa bahay ni Gregoria, dun yung asawa ni Bonifacio.
Bonifacio.
De Jesus.
Ganun siya, Gloria de Jesus sa Quiapo.
Gregoria de Jesus, yeah.
I mean, he's like the content. And that goes back to what you said, di ba? Si BBM, 4 years worth of content every week.
Siguro it pays to be natural in social media. It pays to be organic and to be yourself.
To be yourself.
To be
Yeah.
yourself.
Makikita
So,
ng tao
okay,
yan.
I'll go back to the presidential campaign. Looking at all the videos and the content too that has been pushed from the side of the Lenny camp, Amor, let's start with Amor and then go to Bruce. You know? Did it fall short of what you would call authentic, real?
I don't
We're
think...
talking about the Lenny videos.
No, actually, on the contrary, I believe there was a pink movement. I mean, we know people who paid their way. Ayala, I live in Salcedo. Ayala was a literal street party. Seriously, no? And the thing, though, is I don't think she wanted it enough. long game talaga to eh. Siguro nagsimula mas matagal, di ba? Yung kabila. And she's also been very vocal about, I'd really, after the vice presidency, I just want to be a mother to my kids. And, up to a certain point, people can sense how badly you want something. Pero in terms of authenticity, nandyan yon. And I hope they don't lose it. It's my sincere hope, hand to heart, that they never lose it and that they will let Lenny lead a credible opposition. I mean, that's
There
my
were
hope
other-
for him.
But there were
for
other,
her.
there were video clips or there spots, if you'd call it that, yung medyo weird na...
Yung Japanese, Yung Japanese.
Yung mga...
Tapos may gumaganon
I know. Yun,
Parang,
yun medyo, di ba, ill-advised.
I'm not, I don't know anything about this.
It's what Attorney Bruce was saying, na it doesn't come naturally.
Yeah.
To
For me,
Kasi
I think-
it shows when you're
Yes.
doing a video, right?
Number one,
Yeah.
the problem is that when she was vice president, she chose to be leader of the opposition. So that by itself, pumasok na sa utak ng tao na kalaban ka. With a president that has one of the highest.
70%.
So dun pa lang, disadvantage ka na. And then go to the campaign, initially trying to not saying that she's not running. That's why she was talking to Isko, talking to Manny, and then later on deciding to run. And then may repackaging because clearly she should have stayed with the yellow color. Because alam naman natin parang ang nangyari is lumabas siya. It's sort of parang tinalikuran niya yung kanyang pinaglalaban for the past 6 years. For me, that was something that really created a bad taste in the
I
mouth.
think it's the negative campaigning, whether you
And
like
the
it or not,
negative
right?
campaigning.
Okay, it started with Amor, Bruce, running to stop Marcos.
Yes.
That was a
Right.
bad statement, right?
I mean, and even in the case of Isko, both of them said that the reason why they're running, it's not for the Filipino. Why can't you even say you're running for the Filipino people? I mean, even at that particular instance, no? That vindictiveness and also that toxicity, I think if there's one thing that this election taught us is the current crop of voters, they don't want vengeance, toxicity, and the fear is, and this is what I've heard from many people, if the camp of the vice president won, the first 3 years will be all about throwing people in jail. They were actually rather happy with the tail end of the Duterte administration, right?
People think it's the other way around.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well.
That was the narrative being peddled in a way. Both the problem is that many people would paint BBM as evil, magnanakaw, ganun. However, on the other side, marami din ang iba ang tingin kay VP Lenny. So this is clearly and the only thing that really is bad is that when you paint somebody as evil and negative and bad, those people who do not really believe it fully tend to think it's not true. For example, sabihin mo na he may be bad but not that bad. That level of relativity creates that concept na you're just toxic. Because madali naman sabihin na hindi naman siya ganun siguro all the time. He's not fully bad, but ang lumalabas sa campaign ni Lenny is that he's bad and we have to stop him. And that's the problem.
But Amar, you said earlier that this is a long haul in campaign.
Oh, yeah.
Marcos started earlier.
It's a long game. They're a master of the long
and
game.
Lenny came too late in the game.
Actually, I think they've been preparing for this since, 1986, right? If not sooner. I mean, the kind of tenacity. I mean, come on. If someone hit your family, your default is to, right? Hit back. And they've really bit their tongue. They're the master of the long game. And in terms of strategy, and they decided, siguro 2016, whether or not he was cheated during the VP election, sabi niya siguro, sisimulan ko na yan. Guys, the content lang, 4 years worth of weekly content, that kind of tenacity, right? I have not ever seen in a brand.
And he was willing to run for vice president.
He was willing to run for vice president. I think we have to remember that
Yes.
from what Bruce
He was
saying.
willing to run for vice president under Sara. That was the patience he was willing to do. He was
Grabe.
patient enough. compared to people na like Isko. You could have waited for another 4 years.
We were just talking about that earlier.
So
We
you
were
could have
talking
wait-
about it.
You know, it's
He had
it's
everything.
frustration
He had
for
everything,
me
yeah.
because
He had
started on a
everything.
good foot.
The
Exactly,
money,
we
he's
were just
good
saying.
looking, articulate.
backers.
He had the
He had
backers.
children
All
who
the
were-
oligarchs were
Yeah.
his backers. And now not even double. Come on.
could have
Big
been-
below
he could have
Manny
been-
Mogato.
What are the numbers again?
Less than 2 million.
Yeah,
For
1 point
Isko.
something.
That's
Less
not even
than
the
Manny
population of
Pacquiao.
Manila.
Because
Less than
Manila
Manila.
felt they were para silang parang they felt that they were
Nagamit sila.
betrayed.
Yes.
Yun ang sinabi nila.
Okay.
They
Naging
felt they were
stepping stone
betrayed.
sila. Naging,
Yeah.
naging spit stop sila to the dream.
Sayang. Broke our heart.
Parang nag-quickie lang sila tapos na.
Sir, your words, not ours.
What's
Wrap
your
up na raw.
Okay, before I say anything else, that wraps up our Bilang Pilipino 2022 special with Attorney Bruce Rivera and Ms. Amor Maclang. Tandaan po ninyo, hindi pa natatapos ang ating tungkulin bilang mga Pilipino sa pagtatapos ng bilangan. Maging mapagmatsyag at maging bukas sa pagbusisi ng mga mahalagang issues. I'm Ed Lingao, together with
Manny Mogato.
Patrick Paez?
Regina Lay, and for Jove Francisco, we are One
One
News.
News.